and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before. So can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow alone. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
It is a Wednesday edition of Running Points on YSNLive.com. Ron Potesta with you. Anthony Hardwig with his nice, beautiful cell phone and his Tennessee softball jersey with the UT hat, I might add.
Celebrating the this weekend would have been the start of the WCWS. So,
Are you just assuming that Tennessee would have been there?
I think they would have been there this year. They had a good pitching staff. They had a great lineup. They had a couple of clutch seniors that were experienced, and it would have been if they graduated, it would have been a senior class that never went to the WCWS, and they didn't want that to happen in a program like Tennessee.
Now, I understand that you're all about the softball, but it's ironic that you would wear this on the day in which Johnny Majors, their longtime coach, passed away. It's I didn't know if you knew that when you were putting on the Tennessee gear or not, but former Volunteers head coach and the former head coach of the Pitt Panthers during the Tony Dorsett era, where they won a national championship. He then went to Tennessee, won another national championship with the Volunteers. Johnny Majors passing away early this morning in Knoxville.
He kind of put that football program on the map.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of. I think college football is better when Tennessee's good. So it's hard. It's sad to see that franchise kind of be in a low point with all the talent they get.
Yeah, Johnny Majors put it on the map, and then Fat Philip Fulmer was he was very, very good at what he did. It's just unfortunate he couldn't beat Alabama, and then he just went away. And ever since they let Fulmer go, that program's gone to hell in a handbasket.
Then you ask anyone in Knoxville, Lane Kiffin is the one that kind of took the battering ram to the brick wall, and they'll hate Lane Kiffin until the day they die. So
yeah, something like that.
According to their fans, he blew up that program, and they're still suffering from it.
Well, he's in the Southeastern Conference now, so Tennessee hopefully gets a shot at them very, very soon. But again, you're in your UT stuff. I'm in my Mahoning Valley Coaches Association shirt. So, hoping and praying that we have football in 2020, and we'll see what happens there. On today's show, we're going to be talking golf with the guru over at Mill Creek, Brian Tolnar, at 1 o'clock. We're going to be talking about Jack's Place down in Dublin has just gotten another PGA event this year on the calendar. As they canceled the John Deere Classic, they replaced it, at least for this year, with a one-time event down in Dublin, which is just outside of Columbus, the Muirfield Golf Course, the golf course that was built and designed by Jack Nicklaus. And Brian Tolnar will talk a little bit about that. That'll be coming up later in the year. Next week is the return of the PGA, and Brian will be on every Wednesday to preview each PGA event, but we're going to get his take on Muirfield getting a second PGA event. We'll also find out what is going on over at Mill Creek. That'll be coming up at 1 o'clock. 2 o'clock today, we'll hear from Scott Rourke. He is the commander-in-chief of the B-League, and we will talk with him. It's not too far away, kids. 1 week from Sunday, we rock and roll with the start of the B-League season, not just 18U. It's also going to be the 16U and 14U Seton Park is going to be a busy, busy, busy place.
And I think today the last schedule got released, or they released a 14U schedule today. So all the schedules are out, and then we're ready for some baseball.
Yeah, it should be an awful lot of fun. Again, they will have a condensed regular season, and then they'll have the playoffs. There will be no traveling. It's just going to strictly be league play this year, and we'll just go from there. It should be a heck of a good season. It seems.
Also, I want to point out that on their social media site, Class B released all the guidelines that are going to be followed from fans, coaches, spectators, players. So if you're interested in knowing exactly what to expect when you go to Bob Seton Park, go to their social media pages and read all their guidelines.
And we will certainly talk about some of the guidelines with Scott Rourke coming up at 2 o'clock this afternoon. A number of things to get to. If you're a Pirates fan today, you just got to be continuing to curse the luck or curse the baseball god, small g. Chris Archer is going to be out for the rest of this season. Not that there's a baseball season right now, nor do we know if there is going to be a baseball season. But if there is a baseball season this year, the Pirates will not have Chris Archer. He underwent surgery today to relieve symptoms of neurogenic thoracic outlet syndrome. Mm-hmm. Now, to give everyone an idea of what neurogenic thoracic outlet syndrome is, it is a bunch of pulsating pain that is in the upper shoulder region and continues all the way down the arm and into the hand. Give everyone an idea. Matt Harvey, who was kind of a blown-up, overrated figure in New York, though he did have a couple of really good years, but Matt Harvey had this same surgery, and I think it's pretty safe to say that he is nowhere near the pitcher that he once was in New York. Not that he was great, because he never was, but he was a solid pitcher. He has never been the same since undergoing this surgery. I don't know what to expect with Chris Archer, and I don't even know if Chris Archer is going to be a member of the Pirates next year, because in 2021 he had a contract option for $11.5 million. I find it very hard to believe that the Pirates are going to exercise that option, knowing how cheap that organization is.
Well, that, and even if Chris Archer comes back, he's not going to be the Chris Archer that we knew and loved in Tampa Bay. He's just not going to be that same guy anymore. He might still be a quality pitcher. He might come back and be a quality pitcher. He's definitely possible, but he won't be the ace that is worth that kind of money.
Yeah, and it's a shame because, Neil Huntington and the Pirates organization rolled the dice when they acquired Chris Archer. Look, I said on my show when I was doing terrestrial radio, I had no problems with this gamble. I had no problems with it. Pirates needed to shake things up, and frankly, they were still very much a contender for a wild card spot at the time of that trade. And I thought, okay, let her rip. Now, did they give up too much? I don't think there's any question that they gave up an awful lot of talent for Chris Archer. And unfortunately, Chris Archer is nowhere near the pitcher that he was when he was in Tampa. His ERA was up about a run, and he was walking far more hitters than he did in Tampa. And he was giving up the long ball far more often in Pittsburgh than he did in Tampa. So it's safe to say the Pirates struck out on this deal. Now, do I think that Austin Meadows is going to be the next best thing? No, I don't. I don't think he's that good of a player. I thought he was an overblown prospect in Pittsburgh. Do I think that the pitcher that the Pirates gave up is going to be a difference maker? I think that he can be, as long as his control is under control. And at first, his control was pretty damn impressive in Tampa. Tyler Glasnow. Now, not so much. When he came back from his injury, Tyler Glasnow couldn't find the plate. So I don't know if the Pirates have really given up a tremendous amount. On paper, from their prospects, what they did in minor league baseball, absolutely. But I'm not convinced Austin Meadows is going to be a fantastic player. I mean, the best player in this whole deal might very well be Shane Baz. So we'll see.
Yeah, and you have to take gambles to be a winning organization, and sometimes those gambles are going to work out, sometimes they're not. But I definitely, when it happened, I definitely said, okay, the Pirates are doing something a little bit out of character because they're not usually the team that goes out and makes those big type of gamble kind of situations. So I was happy with it, but unfortunately for them, it just steamrolled into a bad situation.
Yeah, and again, I have serious doubts whether the Pirates are going to sit back and say, oh, we'll gladly take the $11.5 million option. We'll let them have that money. I have serious doubts. Now, having said that, on the other side of this, they might do it because they have not gotten any bang for their buck. And in order for this trade to have any kind of sense from the Pirates aspect, you have to get something out of Chris Archer. So maybe, just maybe, the organization might say, okay, we're going to give the option to Archer. Now, on the flip side, that organization is no longer there. Neil Huntington was fired. The minor league director, farm director was fired. The manager isn't there anymore. The team president isn't there anymore. The general manager isn't there anymore. So you may very well not have this organization give them the option. All right, let's get to the phone lines real quick at 330-886-0813. Rich, what's going on, brother?
Good afternoon, young man. Ron, how are you?
I'm good, sir. Yourself?
You know what? Still breathing air, brother.
There you go.
All right. I don't want to bore you with this question, but what's the latest on the MLB? What are we going to be able to ridicule at this point?
Nothing right now. I mean, they're twiddling their thumbs trying to get something accomplished. Last we heard, the owners flat out said no to the 114-game proposal, and then they turned around and said, hey, we'll give you a full season, but our season's only going to be 50 games. Okay. I mean, that's a third of the season. I'm not sure that you're going to be able to do that. But I mean, if it's 60 games and they do a full prorated salary on 60 games, if that's the best that you can do, okay, I guess. I was hoping for 80 or 82 games. And maybe Major League Baseball is trying to get the Players Association to come down to the 82 and agree to 60 or 70 of those games paid instead of all 82. I don't know.
Well, you know what? Get paid by game would be the logical thing to do.
Well, that's what they're doing. I mean, the Players Association understands they are not going to get their whole salary because they're not going to be playing 162 games. They have already realized that we're going to get paid on a prorated basis. We're going to get paid per game, and that's fine. Their argument is, look, we want to get paid per game. And the owner's argument is, okay, we agreed to that in March, but we had no idea there weren't going to be any fans in the stands. So we're kind of backing away from that right now. And the players are like, no, you agreed to this in March. We're going to hold your feet to the fire.
Let me ask you this. How much does a franchise owner depend on fan attendance?
I mean, it varies. I would say close to 40% because you're getting all kinds of money from television rights, radio rights, national TV rights. I would say close to 40, but I mean, Anthony, what do you think?
Also remember that a big percentage of your gate is shared with the rest of the league.
And that's
so
true,
you don't get a big percentage of that. I think you get maybe 2 or 3% of your actual gate. The rest of it is shared with all of the other 32 teams.
But the teams are all getting that money.
Yes.
So I mean, I would say you're getting the share of everyone's attendance. So I would say that I'm going to go 40% because most of it is going to go through the radio contract, the local TV contract, the national TV contract, MLB.com. That is evenly divided by 30 teams as well. So I think you're probably looking 60% media, 40% fans.
All right. You know what? It's amazing. We've had this conversation at least 2 years ago where Major League Baseball was losing ground with the youth of America.
Yeah.
Televising games late at night. I remember in sixth grade, our teacher would bring the TV in and we'd watch the Dodgers play World Series in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And because of that, that made me a fan.
Well, and again, that's the short-sightedness of baseball to chase the money of today rather than chase the much higher money 20, 30 years from now. That's what is killed or what is killing Major League Baseball right now. I've said it for years. Look, I understand that primetime television is extremely important for anyone, and I understand more than anyone that you have to get your product on in prime time. But you don't have to do that every single game. There is some value. There's a lot of value, not immediate value, but long-term value in putting your best game, putting the grand stage of your event, the World Series, a couple of games in the afternoon to appease the younger generation that you are going to have to rely on 1 and 2 generations later. Because if you slam the door shut on the younger generation, and this has come to fruition with Major League Baseball, Rich, and there is no debating this. They slammed the door 30 some odd years ago to the young kids living in the Eastern and Central time zone, where most of the games, if not all of the games, were played at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and they weren't done until 11:30, midnight, and after midnight. And you're not going to get a lot of kids in those two time zones to watch a game unless their team is involved, because parents are going to look and say, you got school the next day. There is no way we're going to let you stay up and watch the entire World Series. And we have seen over the last 20 years the decline of Major League Baseball to the point where it is now far and away the oldest fan base of the 4 major sports. And that has to worry Major League Baseball. And unfortunately, there are people in the game that honestly think the game is still very much alive and well. They're going to have a rude awakening in about 10 years.
I got news for you. It's going to come sooner than that. If you think they were taking second seat to football 2 years ago, this is going to put them behind everything.
Well, they're already behind basketball. I mean, I'm convinced of that. They're already behind basketball. And look, if the National Hockey League is able to have their and they're the first of the 4 major sports back, then they're going to have all the attention. And I don't know if it's going to draw everyone who watches it, but I'll guarantee you the people that have never watched hockey before that now are going to watch it because it's the first major sport that's back, those people are going to quickly become hockey fans.
You know, I enjoy hockey on NBC on Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely. So do I, mainly because Doc Emmerich is such a great broadcaster.
You know, Ron, it's amazing that the Major League Owners and Players Association have snubbed their nose at the youth of the future.
Yeah.
I'm appalled. It's like thumbing your nose at a great mark. You know what? If you had playoff games in the afternoon on national TV and et cetera, World Series, people would schedule their days off to see the game, the true fans, and they're snubbing their nose at it.
Well, and again, I think that Major League Baseball's dropped the ball the last 30-some-odd years, not only in the youth of the Eastern and Central time zone, but, you know, again, we as someone who has been in the Eastern or the Central time zone for all but one baseball season of my life, we don't think too much about the folks on the West Coast. And an 8 o'clock game starts at 5 in the afternoon on the West Coast. So the kids on the West Coast are able to see a game from start to finish.
The bulk of the population is east of the Mississippi.
Absolutely it is. 85% of the population is in the Eastern and Central time zone. Yes, you are correct.
You know what? I skated through high school and college, but I can figure that out. That's an easy number. This is not brain surgery, Ron.
No, it isn't. It definitely isn't.
Thanks for taking a call, Anthony. You're a great wingman for the main man.
Yeah, he's shaking his head as you say that.
I try.
Yeah.
I'll catch you later, Ron.
All right, brother. Be good. 330-886-0813. Look, I've been saying it for years. It just you've dropped the ball on so many levels, and you've chased money that's on the table and not large piles of money that would be on the table 20, 30 years down the road. But again, this is, if you want to talk East Coast bias, Eastern time zone bias, I have it because I can't relate to those living in the West Coast time. I've only been in the West Coast like 3 or 4 months of my lifetime. I lived in Visalia, California for about 4 months. So that was my 4 months of living in the Pacific time zone. So I don't relate to those that are 3 hours behind the folks in the Eastern time zone. I can relate to Eastern and Central time zone because that was all but 4 months of my life was spent in these two time zones.
Well, and the only 2 of the top 10 TV markets in America are on the West Coast.
Yeah.
L.A. and San Francisco.
That's it.
That's it. The rest are either East or Central.
Exactly. I mean, Texas is west of the Mississippi, but it's in the Central time zone. If you get past Texas and go to New Mexico's in the mountain zone, Colorado is in the mountain zone, Idaho is in the mountain zone. You go Mountain and Pacific. The population in Mountain, Pacific, Alaskan, and Hawaii time zone is far less than those that live in the Central and the Eastern time zone. And the truth is, if you start a baseball game at 8 o'clock Eastern time, you are not going to have a lot of kids on a school night watching from start to finish. If you start the game 7 o'clock Central time zone,
That's
you might have some of those kids stay up to watch most, if not all, of the game, depending on how fast the game is. But the Eastern time zone, hell no. Unless the Indians or the Pirates are playing, none of these kids are going to be watching in this area. They're not going to be watching start to finish the World Series because I would think the parents would be responsible enough to say, you got a school night. There's no way in hell we're going to let you watch that.
Responsible parents.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and responsible parents is kind of. Yeah.
And today it seems like every kid has a TV in their room, so they'll just be like, all right, I'll just watch it in bed. You can't stop me.
Well, that's true. Put the sound down, and there you go.
LA is number 2 on TV
absolutely.
markets.
You
But when you look at it, then San Francisco, I think, is down at 7. So those are the only 2 in the top 10, and then you have to go a ways down to find anyone else in the West. That's
I would say San Diego and Phoenix are probably very close to the top 20, if not in the top 20. But
Phoenix is 11, right behind Atlanta.
All right, so there you go. So three of the top 11 markets are in the Phoenix is in the
mountain, or is
Phoenix is in the Pacific time zone, Pacific Daylight Time, Mountain Standard Time.
Okay.
State of Arizona doesn't move their clocks, so they're in the mountain zone in the winter time, and in the spring and summer they're in the Pacific time. So there you go. No, I just Major League Baseball has dropped the ball with that. There's no two ways about it.
We talked about it. If Major League Baseball does leak into November, they might move those postseason games to a daytime to not compete with the football that's going on at night.
I would think so. I mean, especially Fox is the bell cow, and they do the World Series games. Well, Fox also does a very large amount of college football games now, and there's no question they do the National Football League. So normally World Series starts on a Tuesday and Wednesday. They play the first 2 games of the World Series, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 3, 4, and 5. They go back to Tuesday and Wednesday, 6 and 7 if necessary. So, Do you put the World Series game on a Sunday night after the Fox broadcast? Probably. What do you do with Saturday? I would love to see
Saturday
again.
should be a day game.
I'd love to see it.
You can move college football to your FS1s, your FS2s, your Fox regional Fox Sports networks.
I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see that. But whether or not they do that, hell, whether or not we have a season is up in the air. Again, the last report, the owners said, "Hey, we will let the players be paid per game, but if that's the case, then we're only going to have a 50-game season." Okay, if you're doing a 50-game season. And you want to play your teams in the division. There's 4 teams. So what do you play them
6 times to make it 24?
That's 24, games? But then you can't divide 26 into 5.
No.
So that's not going to happen. I mean, you have to basically sit back and go, okay, if it's a 3-game series on the other side, that's 15 games. Can you divide 35 into 4? No, you can't. So I don't know if 50 can work. I think that 60 might be able to work. You might be able to do 60 where you have a 4-game series for each of the 5 teams in your other league. That's 20. And then you play your other teams in your league 10 times each. That's 40. 40 and 20 is 60. All right, if you do a 60-game season and you allow the players and pay them for their 60 games, it's not a bad thing. I mean, it's not even half of the season, but a 60-game season is better than no season.
Right. I mean, I would much rather see an 82-game season because of how fickle baseball is and how, sometimes a really not great quote-unquote team can be good for 40 games or something. Like we've seen a lot of teams be leading the division in May, and then they're in the cellar by the end of September.
Oh, absolutely, and teams that bury themselves in April. The old adage in baseball: you can win a division, or you cannot win a division in April, but you can bury yourself to where you can't win a division in April. Well, I mean, if you have a 60-game season, boy, the start of that season has to be on point. Otherwise, you've buried yourself to where you have no shot at the playoffs.
And usually, every team goes, through a 6 or 7 game losing streak. That gets a lot more magnified if you only have 60 games to work with.
Yeah, so much for the marathon.
Right.
You put a 60-game season in. No. This ain't a marathon now. This is a flat-out sprint. And you better get off to a really good start. Otherwise, you're in trouble.
Might bring a lot of chaos to baseball. It might not be the quote-unquote best teams that get into the playoffs. We might see some teams just have a hot 30 games. That's all you need. And they could get into the playoffs. It'll be the wild, wild west.
It would be completely opposite of what Major League Baseball normally is. Because, whether you were alive during the era in which Major League Baseball played 154 games, or the current standard, which is 162 games. And by the way, anyone that sits back and says, well, Major League Baseball needs to cut their games. Look, the history of the game and the way that statistics are revered in this game, you're only going to have 2 choices if you're going to go that direction. You either stay at 162 games or you drop back down to 154 games. Major League Baseball is not going to go any lower than 154 in a normal season because this game and the statistics are so revered. Now, having said that, if you have a season in which COVID-19 was one of the reasons why it didn't start on time, and then the owners and the players bitching about money was another reason why it didn't start on time, and you wind up getting a 60 or a 50 or an 80-game season, do you put an asterisk next to that?
I don't, because everyone's on the same footing. Everyone's got the same exact, you're playing 60 games. If one team handles it better than another and wins a championship, then you went out and earned it. The circumstances might be different, but the fact that everyone's on the exact same footing and you went and handled it better than everyone else and won a championship, then props to you.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I'll go back to the 1981 season when Major League Baseball went on strike in June, didn't come back until early August, and they had the All-Star game in Cleveland. That was the first game back. Everyone basically showed up at the old dungeon in Municipal Stadium. Over 72,000 people showed up. And they had the first half and second half, and they crowned the World Series champion. Now, look, the Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series championship. Am I going to put an asterisk next to that? No. I mean, they played by the rules of what the rules were. Now, unfortunately, the rules that they had were stupid because the best team that year didn't get an opportunity to go to the playoffs, and that was the Cincinnati Reds. Does that mean that I have to put an asterisk next to the season? Hell no. They played by the rules that they had, and there you go. The Dodgers won the 1981 World Series, and yes, it was a strike-shortened season, but I'm not going to have a problem with that. Likewise, in the NFL, 9-game season in the NFL in 1982. Washington Redskins won the Super Bowl that year. Am I putting an asterisk next to that because they didn't play 16 games? Of course not. That's absurd.
And I'll play devil's advocate because I think the asterisk has gotten like a negative kind of symbol to it ever since the steroid era. When we think asterisk, we think something wrong happened, but really, an asterisk just means there's special information. You need to look at a footnote because something special happened. So in that kind of sense, maybe you put an asterisk in the season because it's a special season, there are special circumstances, whatever. But not in the negative sense where the asterisk is there because they are lessened. The championship's not lessened in that sense.
No, agreed.
But an asterisk in the sense that, yes, there is extra information that goes along with this championship. There are, understandable different circumstances than a normal season. So an asterisk that leads you to a footnote that says, yeah, this was the COVID-19 season, I'd be fine with that. But an asterisk in the sense that it's a negative, that team didn't earn that championship, I don't buy that.
All right, now speaking of asterisks, everyone wants to put an asterisk next to Barry Bonds because, Bonds was a cheater. Well, okay, first of all, let me remind everyone, okay.
It never was proven.
It was never proven that he took steroids, even though it's pretty obvious that the guy did, but it was never proven. Barry Bonds is the all-time home run king, and he holds the record for most home runs in a season. Now, do you put an asterisk next to that? I don't.
I don't either. I mean, I don't see how you can. I get it. Everyone kind of knows it's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, but still, never proven. So you can't say he did it because you don't have evidence that says he did. Well, hard evidence, like the proof, the testing positive.
Sure.
So you can't sit there and put an asterisk next to it because you can't undoubtedly 100% say he took steroids.
I agree with that. Now, do I think he did?
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious that he did, but you don't have any proof in that. And let me remind everyone, in our court system, you better have a lot of proof because there is a thing in this country that I firmly believe in. Everybody's innocent until they are proven guilty.
There's a reason the burden goes on the prosecution.
Absolutely.
Beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Absolutely.
It's
That's why O.J. Simpson got away with what it has my kind of dome.
It wasn't hot air.
It wasn't hot air, exactly. So it just is what it is. Now, I was told by a few people that this whole stuff happened the day that Barry Bonds stole his 400th bag. He had already hit 400 home runs. Mm-hmm. And he's the only Major League Baseball player to have ever done 400 homers and 400 steals, to my knowledge. He's the one and only to have ever done this. And he thought he should have gotten a lot more praise for this. Well, this happened in the summer of 1998. Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa are chasing down Roger Maris's record and having this memorable summer. And Barry Bonds is a footnote saying, oh, hey, by the way, Barry Bonds became the first Major League Baseball player to ever go 400 home runs and 400 steals in his career by stealing his 400th bag. And Bonds got pissed and said, okay, you people want to see a show, let me give you a show. So there you go. And boy, oh boy, did he put on a show.
Like we said, Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa made it almost impossible to do anything good in that era without being finger pointed like you're on steroids.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely, and unfortunately, there's a lot of folks that are not going to be in the Hall of Fame because they were tested positive for, or they were rumored to be knee deep in the steroid era. Look, he's one of my favorite ball players, and he's a longtime Cleveland Indian. And I personally believe, other than Miggy Cabrera and maybe Albert Pujols, Manny Ramirez is the best right-handed hitter I've ever seen. Yeah. I mean, the guy can be comatose for 3 years, get out of a coma, grab a bat in his hand, and still hit 300. He's that good. And unfortunately, Manny will never see the light of day in Cooperstown. He should. He's one of the greatest right-handed hitters to ever play this game. But you're not going to see Manny in the Hall of Fame, and nor should he.
Not for a while, at least, until the baseball writers of today that want him out are going to die off, and the younger generation kind of comes.
Well,
in.
I mean, he's going to have to go Veterans Committee. Yeah. He's going to have to go Veterans Committee. Alex Rodriguez is probably going to have to go Veterans Committee.
Yeah.
There's just no two ways about it. All right, let's go to Champ. Champ, you're on YSN Hotline. What's up, brother?
Hey, Ron. Hey, listen, add to that, talk about that 1981 season. The thing with the Reds is the first half of the season, the Dodgers finished 36-21, and the Reds finished 35-21. They played one less game, and they finished second, so they got screwed out of that first half. And they also finished second in the second half to the Astros. They had the best record in baseball, but didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, no, they finished second in both halves, had the best overall record in the game. What Major League Baseball should have done, and I barked on this when this was my junior year in high school, going into my senior year. When the playoffs started, I was a senior at Leetonia, and I was barking on this one. I said, guys, this is too easy. Just have the top two teams in each division. If you're going to do this silliness, have the top two teams in each division instead of first half, second half BS, because by doing first half, second half, you eliminated the actual best team in Major League Baseball that year.
Yeah, the Dodgers took a big dive in that second half, and I remember that season because I happened to be on the road, I think, with a band at the time, and that's when the Tigers in 81 started. That's when we started hearing Gibson and Trammell and Whitaker. That's when those guys were starting to get, like 22, 23 years old, and they eventually, 84, won the championship. But they were just starting off. They had a very young team, and Sparky was at the helm. But and they battled for both halves, but they fell short. But, I mean, if they did today, the way they're talking now, they'd probably have 15 of these teams in the playoffs today because of TV revenue.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, the TV revenue is... if the owners can get away with doing a play-in game and have all 30 teams involved, they'd do it.
I was my favorite story though is when you talk about baseball and what happened in the '80s with the collusion. My favorite story is this collusion article that's in the baseball contract was actually put in by the owners, and it goes back to the 1966 season when Don Drysdale and Sandy Koufax decided they were frustrated with these one-year contracts. They decided to go in as a team and negotiate with the Dodgers. And they wanted 3-year contracts and $166,000 a season, added up to a $1 million total, and that was much better what they're making. Well, they held out most of the spring training, and it was obvious that the fans were really not too happy with them. So at the very end, they decided to come back. And when they did the next baseball contract, the baseball owners, especially the Dodgers, they were just furious on what those two players did. They wanted in something in the contract that said players shall not act in concert with other players in salary demands. Well, Marvin Miller said, okay, that's great, but make sure you put you in there too. So he put it in for the clubs can't do that either. And the irony is that's what really burnt them in the 1980s. The collusion article they put in is what they disobeyed, and that was the reason why they actually, a lot of people say they expanded 4 teams in the 1990s to pay those teams to pay the fee so the Major League could play the players that they lost during the collusion hearings.
Oh, there's no question about that. And Champ, I'm going to tell you right now, without any hesitation, within the next 3 years, Major League Baseball is going to expand to 2 more teams for the sole purpose, especially if they don't have a season this year, to recoup the $4 billion that Major League Baseball is going to lose if they don't have a season this year. You can bet your bottom dollar that Major League Baseball will expand and they'll get that money back by expansion.
You know, and the guy that really started this whole thing with the collusion was none other than Peter Ueberroth, who the baseball owners really trusted, and he actually told them, this was some of the evidence, he said, he went in front of the owners meeting, and he said, you know what, if you press the red button, that means you win the World Series, but you lose $10 million. But if you press the black button, you make $4 million and finish in the middle of the pack. What would you rather do? And I'll say, we'd rather make $4 million than lose $10 million. And he just kept making that point over and over again. And even after the first collusion hearings came out, results, they absolutely colluded, they kept doing it because it lasted for 3 years. And the very first player, actually, that was heard, the very first collusion case was none other than Kirk Gibson, the Tigers. He had signed it. He couldn't get a good deal at all, and he signed with the Tigers a 3-year deal. Well, they voided his contract, and that's why he went to the Dodgers, like in February, and that was the '88 season where he ended up being the MVP, and they won the World Series.
Yeah, he and Carlton Fisk were the 2 big star players that were being colluded big time. And look, Jim, I'm convinced a couple of years ago there was collusion going on, not with the superstar players. Those guys were getting their money. I'm talking about the second level and the third level baseball player. They were getting colluded big time.
Yeah, the Carlton Fisk thing is interesting because he was a free agent, and George Steinbrenner almost had a contract with him signed until he got a call from Jerry Reisdorf from Chicago, the White Sox, and said, "Hey, what about our deal? Did you forget about that?" And Steinbrenner said, "Okay, I won't do it." And that was the whole story with Carlton Fisk. But I guess the salaries only increased by 5%, but the baseball revenues increased by like 30%. So everything that they used in the courtroom, the owners were cooked. They were obviously guilty, and that's distrust still exists today between the owners and the players based on what happened in the 1980s.
Well, there's no question. And look, the players have said from day one, hey, open up the books. I mean, we don't trust anything that you say. I mean, the players are looking at the owners as if they're politicians. We don't trust a word you say. Prove what you're saying. And I think that if the owners were wanting to get some peace and harmony, they should open the books and allow the players to see what's going on. Because if there are teams that are losing money, and I personally, I don't think any of these major league teams are losing money. An owner doesn't own a baseball team or a professional franchise to lose money. That's just not happening. But if they are losing money, then you're just going to fuel for the owners and just sit back and say, see, this is what's going on. This is why we don't have the money. But the only way the players are going to trust the owners is if the owners open the books.
In 1991, when it was all settled, the final settlement was $280 million that the owners owed the players. $280 million, and that's why we have Florida and Colorado and Tampa Bay, and that's exactly how they were able to pay that $280 million. And then in '94 they had another strike. But I think the last time I read that a player's check bounce was like 1884 was the last time. So there's plenty of money in baseball, believe me.
Oh God, there's way too much money in baseball. And again, millionaires and billionaires, and hopefully they get their stuff together so they can, figure out that the fans that don't make anywhere close to that are going to be able to have a season, and more importantly, support Major League Baseball. Because without the fans, the billionaire owners and the millionaire players, they're not getting anything.
Yeah, I think my bet right now is on the NBA, the first sport to get going. It sounds like they mean business here, and they got cooperation. They're actually, the owners and players have given all the power to the commissioner of the NBA. They said, hey, whatever you want to do it. I mean, they have a lot of cooperation, something that baseball doesn't have, and it'd be interesting how football handles this, because that could be an issue too with football, especially what's going on in this country right now.
Well, look, the National Hockey League is probably going to be first, and if they're not first, they're going to be a close second. And I think Gary Bettman and Adam Silver have both done a tremendous job of of getting the owners and the union all together and saying, look, we have to be able to do this because our livelihood depends on this. Unfortunately, Rob Manfred is too stupid to do something like that.
Yeah, hockey's still basically a regional sport, but where it's regionally popular, it's very popular. And, hockey, the best thing they did was get rid of those stupid divisions, the Norris division. Well, they named these divisions after old-time hockey guys from, like, the early 1800s, and they kind of modernized that. But hockey is surviving despite losing a whole year because they overemphasized how important they were. But they're going to have a TV contract up hockey, by the way, coming up, and expect them to do pretty well compared to what they got right now because hockey is hanging in there, so to speak.
Well, listen, I got news for you. If hockey's the first of the four major sports back and they have the stage all by their lonesome, there are going to be a lot of hockey fans that are going to watch this sport maybe for the first time. And I've said this for the longest time. If you go to a hockey game or if you see a hockey game, you're immediately going to become a fan because hockey has every bit the action that football has, except for the scoring aspect. But as far as action goes, hockey's right there.
And there's a long line up there in Buffalo to see those Sabre games right now because they're popular.
That's you're not making me happy right now, champ.
Well, Tim, how are the Red Wings doing right now, too? I mean,
wow.
I know.
Okay.
But you know what? I've been wasting all my time polishing those 4 Stanley Cups we won in the recent years, so I believe that's something to do.
All right, yeah. Well, as for the Sabres, they can only wish to be in the playoffs, let alone a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I think the only wins they have this year were against the Red Wings, I think.
Well,
but anyways,
is what it is.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, though. But, yeah, I'm not very confident about baseball right now. I just don't see – they're just too far apart on so many things. And we'll see what happens. I tell you what, though, they're going to end up really damaging themselves if they don't play any baseball this year.
Agreed. Agreed wholeheartedly.
Okay, buddy, thanks.
All right, brothers. Appreciate it. 330-886-0813. And I'll tell you this, and we talked about this. If you want to have your camps open on June the 10th, you better have a deal no later than this coming Sunday. We have Wednesday, what's left of Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays. You got 4 days.
It's starting to sound less and less likely, to be honest.
And look, I mean, at the end of the day, all Rob Manfred and Tony Clark have to do is just come together on the amount of games and the amount of games that these guys can play, that the owners are going to be willing to say, we will pay every bit of your salary for these amount of games, and then let's just play baseball. If you can do that, let's say 60 games, as we said, 50 games. It doesn't. You cannot put 50 into the amount of games that you want to play for against your division and the division opposite you. The framework is all done. It's the only thing that isn't done is the amount of games played and how much money the players are going to get paid. So if you go 60 games, you can have 10 games against your division, 4 teams in your division, including you, or not including you because you don't play yourself. So 4 teams, 10 times each, that's 40 games. A 4-game series with the 5 teams directly opposite of your league. So if you're a Pirates fan, you're playing the Brewers, the Cubs, the Cardinals, and the Reds 10 times each. That's 40 games. And you're playing a 4-game series against the Twins, the White Sox, the Royals, the Indians, and the Tigers. That's 20 games. 40 and 20 is 60. No problem. You can do that. Let's just get this thing going. If you have to play 60 games and the owners can say, we'll give you 60 games and you'll get your money over 60 games, then let's agree to that, sign it on the dotted line, and let's get these guys into camp to start the season in July.
It's so simple, but at least it is when we're talking about. Maybe there's something we're missing that's super complicated, but I feel like baseball is just overthinking the problem.
Look, they're overthinking a lot of things,
right?
And it just it is what it is. It's unfortunate. The good news is we'll have baseball around these parts, and that's all that matters.
Yes.
Coming up at 2 o'clock, we'll hear from Scott Rourke because the B League next Sunday 1 week from Sunday, is going to be up and running. And we're going to have a condensed season, but we are going to be up and running. 14U, 16U, and 18U. And we will hear from Scott Rourke in the 2 o'clock hour. Coming up in a bit, we will hear from Brian Tolnar. He is the guru over at Mill Creek. And we will talk about what is going on at Mill Creek Golf Course. Also, we heard word that the PGA Tour, they get up and running again next week. Brian will be a fixture Wednesdays at 1 o'clock, and we will be previewing each PGA event, talking about the golf course and whatnot. Today, we're going to be talking about what's going on at Mill Creek. We're also going to be talking about Muirfield, the course that Jack Nicklaus built and designed just outside of Columbus in Dublin, Ohio. They are getting a second PGA event. That will be coming up later in the PGA season. So we will hear from Brian Tolnar to talk about Muirfield and their second PGA event. And I think it's going to be a one-year thing because they canceled the John Deere Classic this year. They're going to put a second PGA event in Muirfield, and I think it's just going to be a one-time thing, though.
There might be, as the season goes on, there might be some more of that kind of thing where they have to plug in a tournament to substand for a tournament that gets canceled because that particular area is dealing with a little bit more than others. And we might see a couple more of those kind of situations where they have to kind of swap in tournaments.
Oh, yeah, and we'll talk with Brian about that. I mean, this the PGA schedule is completely messed up. There's events that would normally be played, and they're not going to be played until later in the calendar year. If you looked at the PGA schedule prior to the COVID-19 outbreak, it is nowhere near the PGA schedule that is current post-COVID-19 outbreak. So we will definitely talk with Brian Tolnar from Mill Creek about that. A couple of other things. I would be very remiss if I did not say a few words about Wes Unseld passing away. Wes Unseld played basketball when I was a kid growing up, and I saw most of his NBA career. He played for the then Baltimore Bullets, then Washington Bullets, and then became the coach, and it was front office with the Washington Wizards. Wes Unseld was a very undersized center, much like Willis Reed. He was in the 6'7", 6'8" range and was playing center. And in that day, he was going up against guys much bigger than him, going up against Wilt Chamberlain, well over 7 foot tall, going up against Lou Alcindor, later Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, well over 7 feet tall, Nate Thurmond, 6'11", Bob Lanier, close to 7 feet tall. Wes Unseld was a damn good defender and a great rebounder. And he was more known for three-quarters court passes. Once he got the rebound, he would throw the ball over his head and fire it down the court right into the arms of someone doing a fast break layup. Kevin Love, who, ironically enough, his middle name is Wesley. His father played with Wes Unseld. Kevin Love, the reason why he's able to do what he does when he grabs a rebound and fires it down the court, he was taught that by Wes Unseld. So Wes Unseld was a fantastic basketball player, very deserving of the Basketball Hall of Fame, and someone that meant an awful lot to the city of Baltimore and later Washington, D.C. He was a very important part of the Bullets/Wizards franchise.
Yeah, and it's a shame. Like we've said it in the last couple of weeks, it seems like the only breaking news we're getting right now is deaths of legends, and I'm glad that we're going to start to get sports to actually talk about and games to actually break down, and we're getting closer to not having to have every part of our breaking news section be someone passing away.
Yeah, no doubt. But I would be very remiss if I did not mention the passing of Wes Unseld a couple of days ago, as he died Monday night. What a life, man! That guy was unbelievable. Also, I would be very remiss if I did not mention Dover Motor Speedway. in Dover, Delaware. They also own the Speedway in Nashville, Tennessee. And the folks in Dover are going to be giving up in 2021. Dover normally has 2 dates for the big boys in NASCAR to be running. They are giving up one of those dates so NASCAR would go into Music City. It's going to be the first time in quite a while that the Nashville Speedway is going to have a NASCAR big boy cup event. And that's going to be fun. Now, they have to do an awful lot of remodeling and resurfacing of the track, and they're going to have to pretty much put some more stands because I think it only holds like 25,000. They're going to probably need to expand that out to about 40 or 50,000. But that's good for the city of Nashville to get a NASCAR event.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a strong NASCAR following in Nashville that let out a collective scream when they heard that news. I bet we probably heard it up here in Ohio.
Yeah, Dover, Delaware. I've never been inside Dover, but I've seen it from the outside. That's a pretty nice place. It's I think it's a mile long track. Nashville is like a mile and a quarter, a mile and a third. But it's cool that Nashville's going to get a NASCAR event for the big boys. So Ryan Blaney and the rest of those guys are going to have an opportunity to go to Music City. Which, look, Nashville is how do I say this without offending my Southern brethren? It is a great Southern city that is filled with a lot of Northerners.
Yeah.
It's
where you go to make your dreams come true if you want to get into country music.
Yeah, and the music in general, but country music is what Nashville is all about. But it's a city that is very much a northern feel to it, even though it's in below the Mason-Dixon line. Great city. Absolutely love my time in whenever I visited Nashville, because I lived so dang close to Nashville. Jackson is between Nashville and Memphis, so I had an opportunity to visit both cities quite often. So it's kind of fun. All right, we're going to take a time out. On the other end, we will hear from Brian Cholnar. He is the guru over at Mill Creek. We will talk about what is going on in Mill Creek. We will also talk about Muirfield, the house that Jack built, the course that Jack built. They're getting a second PGA event. We'll talk to Brian Cholnar about that. That's all coming up in a bit. You're listening to a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com.
21
Good evening,
News.
and thank you for joining us.
Let's get right to our top
More
story
experienced reporters
A new Wilmington
At
restaurant.
GM Lordstown,
telling more local stories
We'll look at
baby
efforts
boy
to
is
curb
recovering from a broken.
around our
Good
valley
community in
afternoon.
Niles,
We are
one
here in
Tango Valley
Youngstown, right
business.
because you expect
important for everyone. No place like home.
more local news.
in Mercer County
Before
Court.
they become life-threatening.
21 News is our valley's #1 local news.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends: shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms, it just tastes better.
It's a Wednesday edition of Running Points on YSNLive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hardwick. And we are joined by the head man over at Mill Creek. He is one of the PGA pros, and, well, he runs Mill Creek like no one's business. The PGA pro and the head cheese of the Mill Creek Golf Course, Brian Tolnar, joining us on the YSN hotline. What's going on, Brian?
Oh, not too much. Enjoying some of the sun, and good to see some faces out here playing golf today.
Okay, I got to ask, the weather has been absolutely gorgeous, knock on wood. The business is cooking at Mill Creek?
We are cooking, and as of Monday this week, or a couple days ago, we are firing in all cylinders. We got all our leagues back. Just started the majority of them on Monday. A lot of them didn't start early on and started to start back up in June. So we're happy to see all those folks again. And then our regulars and our weekends have been off the charts, which is really, really neat for us. You know, everybody's got cabin fever. They want to get out, and they've definitely shown it. You know, tee times from 6:30 in the morning till a little after 6 in the evening on the weekends, which is something that we're not used to seeing. We usually see about open play about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But like I said, you need a tee time to play up until about 6 p.m. on the weekends now, which is a good thing.
That's a great thing, Brian. Hey, for those that were late on the draw in terms of getting into league play, is there still time for anyone to be assigned to a team, or has that ship sailed?
There is. Most of them have locked up their teams and things of that nature, but we do still have a few leagues that, you know, obviously will start the rest of this week, and they do have some availability, and they can piece you in. You know, whether you want to be a sub for a league and can't make the commitment throughout the course of the year, being a sub, you know, just similar to bowling. I mean, there's almost every week that somebody's on a vacation or has to get called in to work here and there. There's definitely some availability if you're interested in doing that as well, but it's a great time to be playing the sport.
The last time we talked to you, we asked you about the lessons that people could take at Mill Creek, and at that point they were still being kind of developed and what the go was going to be. Are lessons now a go at Mill Creek? Can people start to take lessons from the people there that are going to give them?
Right now, the golf courses are a go here. The par 3 course at the Wick Recreation area is a go. As of this morning at 8, our driving range is now a go, which is basically we've been waiting up until this point. Lessons, however, along with our camps, our clinics, nothing different than what they're doing from our educational programming and our recreational programming here at the park, are on hold through the end of August 31st. So we are definitely on hold for those. You know, basically when you're going to be in close contact with folks, whether it be a clinic or a golf lesson, they're still holding strong on, you know, keeping that at a very minimum to non-existent until the end of August. We'll reassess it probably the first week in August and decipher what we want to do moving forward with the programming here at the park. Now, the good thing is that as sports roll out, like baseball and softball and tennis, which was about a little over a week ago, we're starting to institute getting those outdoor facilities open and ready. When we have mandated guidelines from the state and the CDC, fortunate that golf was very early in the case to being one of those sports that were let open at the get-go. You know, we'll continue to follow suit. You know, we're waiting on like our volleyball stuff now and some of the football and flag football and things that we're normally accustomed to doing in this time frame that are still on hold at the moment. Unfortunately, golf lessons and camps and clinics and ladies' golf schools are still in that holding tank, so to speak.
Brian Tolnar from the Mill Creek Golf Course joining us, as he does every Wednesday from here on out on the YSN hotline. Big news coming out of the PGA that puts a smile on Jack Nicklaus's face, no doubt. Muirfield is getting a second PGA event. Now, it's going to be a one-time deal, but the PGA Tour allegedly agreed in principle to Workday Incorporated to be a title sponsor of a one-time tournament at Muirfield Village Golf Club in Dublin, just outside of Ohio. That is going to be filling the gap due to the cancellation of the John Deere Classic. Now, the John Deere Classic is going to return to the PGA schedule in 2021, hence the one-time offer of getting a second PGA event out in Muirfield and in Dublin, but still great news for the folks in Dublin and specifically for Jack Nicklaus.
It is. I mean, it's a very, very rare occurrence that you'll see two PGA Tour events at the same facility in consecutive weeks. Just something that we're not accustomed to seeing. And just from a tournament startup to finish, there's a lot of work that's involved. There's a lot of charity that's involved. There's a lot of volunteering that's involved in anything that you do. And to be able to see, the Memorial and Muirfield Golf Club be able to hold and host two PGA Tour events back to back. I mean, there's going to be a lot of work done by a lot of people, but it fills the gap on an event that, you're going to have probably an event or two along the line that will get canceled or held off. I think Greenbrier was one of those events. Obviously, the John Deere being another one of those events that their states just aren't open yet, or they have some underlying issues with their facility or sponsorship agreements. So I think that this is something that you could see as we enter in the latter half of the year, although most of the tournaments in the latter half of the year remain on a good holding spot for their normal week. But I think with the transition of the majors being pushed towards the back half of the year, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw another event or two pop in here like this, not necessarily at the same venue, but another event popping in to fill up the void of not going a week without a PGA Tour event when we get started here next week with the Colonial Tournament. But it's neat to be able to have that. It's neat to be able to have the income go to the state of Ohio twice for two PGA Tour events. It's a monster number that your community gets and the charities in your community get. And it's going to be a full player field, 156 players, unlike what the normal Memorial Tournament is as an invitational field where they would have 120 players. So, to have almost 300 players in a 2-week period, the only thing that you're not going to get right now with the first one is the spectators that come along with the workday event, which is the event prior. But there is some opportunity to get some spectators back for the Memorial. And I was on a couple conference calls with Larry Dornish, the director of golf at Muirfield, when this first COVID crisis struck, and when they officially moved their dates from, which would be next week in June, into July to host the Memorial Tournament, the availability of having spectators. Now, they were pushing very, very hardly to have that at their event, and this is long before they signed up the previous week's event. But I'm thinking somewhere around there during the state of Ohio's transition into that, second in phase 3, that there's a really good possibility that you will see some spectators, probably not the entire base that you would normally have at a PGA Tour event, maybe 50% of that in some capacity, but I think that you will have spectators at that event, and it may be one of the first events to open up. Originally, they were talking by state, when you hit phase 3, you'll get spectators back in your event, which I think they were transitioning to about the middle part of August. So you may see some spectators down at the Memorial, but it's going to be great for Muirfield and the state of Ohio to host two PGA Tour events, albeit back-to-back at the same location.
Under normal circumstances, the economy in that area for those 2 weeks, I mean, it would be a tremendous boost economically for this area. Now, even if you have 50% of the fans, like you were talking about for the second tournament, I mean, you're not going to get the most bang for your buck because these are not normal circumstances. But back-to-back golf tournaments in the same location, same golf course, same town, the Columbus area is going to feel a tremendous uptick economically because of this.
Oh, there's no doubt. From a tourism perspective, you've got, obviously all the players and all their families staying in hotels. You've got restaurants that will be thriving on everybody that comes into town. They're going to have to go someplace to eat. They're looking for activities, so they're going to do things in the local community, and I think that that's huge. You won't lose any of that. I mean, they may lose a little bit at the gate, based on if they do have spectators or half the spectators, but it's better than putting a 0 on the board or not having an event. Just like in Illinois' case with the John Deere being canceled, this one moving here. I mean, they're out of an event completely. So if that was $20,000 or a $20 million week or $25 million week with a PGA Tour event, with all of the economic income that's generated off the event, they're getting a donut. And obviously we're fortunate to pick up a little bit off of that event, let alone your two events that you've got in a row, and especially coming into Columbus, which is booming to begin with, and you're having it at Jack's Place, which has hosted a Ryder Cup, a Solheim Cup, President's Cup, numerous PGA Tour events and amateur events. I mean, it's just a great venue for golf, and I think that they're set up and they're really paired for being able to pull this off. Not too many facilities can really say that.
I know it was a week ago, but did you watch the match between Tiger and Peyton and Phil and Brady? And if so, what did you think of that?
You know what? I saw parts of it. I didn't see it. I DVR'd it, and we had some stuff here going on at the golf course, and we were pretty busy. And I followed that up by a trip to Geneva on the lake to see some family members who were in town. So I got to listen to a couple things that were, on the radio on the way up, but I didn't get a chance to see it from start to finish. But I think it's good for golf. I think going forward, I think you're going to see a lot more of that, whether it be celebrities in the mix or players playing Tiger and Phil head-to-head. If you go back to the old Shell's Wonderful World of Golf days, which I was a huge fan of, where they would get 2 or 3 PGA Tour players and they'd go play these various venues for amounts of money, basically really just promoted and showcased the game of golf. And I think with this, I think you're going to get a little bit of that. They also have another thing called the Big Three Golf, where Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, and Arnold Palmer would go play matches against one another. And I think that, as the epidemic hit and there was a void for sports in general and a void for golf, I think this is a great way to spark people's interest, get them acclimated with the game. And if it's an indication with how we've been busy and some of the area pros here locally have been busy, I think it's great for the game because it's brought a lot of people that necessarily, haven't played golf in a reasonable amount of time or just starting to play golf. We've seen so many new, fresh faces that being here 6 years, you get to know your clientele coming in and out, and that goes with packages from Pittsburgh and Cleveland that are here on Stay and Play. There's so many locals that we've seen this year that I haven't seen in the 6 years that I've been here, that are just happy to get out and to be able to do something. And I think that alone, that event, really put a shot in the arm for the game of golf to get people more interested. When you're watching that on TV, what's the first thing that you want to go do? You want to go out and play, or you want to go out and see if you can duplicate what Tom Brady's doing, what Peyton Manning's doing, smack talking aside.
Yeah, barnstorming is. We've talked a lot about that, not just in golf, but in all sports. If you can get an opportunity to do some barnstorming, where a couple of big name players from a chosen sport is getting together and having an event in their chosen profession on a field, or in this case a golf course, that would be spectacular. Now, unfortunately, barnstorming, golf is a summertime sport. You really can't do it in the wintertime unless you're in the South Florida, Southern California, Arizona, some of those places. For this area, barnstorming would be next to impossible because we're right in line with the PGA Tour.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, you would need the right mix. I mean, it would have to be for them to be able to do the things that they do. If you remember 2 or 3 years back when Tiger played Phil, I think they played in Las Vegas, and was it 17 or 18? I think they've taken 2 years off before coming back and playing. It was in a point of the season where the season had been done. The FedEx Cup playoffs were over. Traditionally, remember when we used to watch the Skins game in November over Thanksgiving weekend? I think it would have to be done in there. Unfortunately for us, the region that we live in, we don't gain anything from that, but it gets people interested and acclimated. They have so many events now between January all the way through the end of October with the FedEx Cup playoffs, and this year through November with the makeshift schedule that they have, it'd be a little bit tough. So their timing was absolutely perfect, especially for the Midwest and the Northeast, without a doubt.
Brian, before we let you go, a couple more things. The PGA Tour starts up again next week, and we're more than happy to have you on every Wednesday to preview each PGA event, preview the golf course, some of the golfers that historically golf very well in the chosen golf courses. No secret, we have a local player in the Mahoning Valley in Jason Kokrak. And last year, I thought Jason had a fantastic year, but unfortunately, the elusive first win on the PGA Tour is, well, it's still in play, where Jason did not win on the PGA Tour last year, though he had a fantastic season where he accumulated enough points to be involved in the Masters tournament, which I personally think that he could do quite well in the Masters because of the fact that he hits the ball a long way. I remember talking with Jerry McGee years ago, and Jerry said Jason Kokrak has the potential to be a top 5, top 10 PGA player. He's a couple of years older since the interview with Jerry McGee. Brian, in your opinion, does Jason Kokrak have the ability and the potential still to be a top 5 or a top 10 PGA player?
He certainly has the tools. There's no question about it. And it comes down to, if you remember David Duval back in his heyday, he was lacking a win, was always there, never could pull through. Once he got the first win under his belt, he ended up winning like 8 more times in that season, where he became ranked number 1 in the world. I think he's a player that certainly has the length to do it. And I think all of those guys on the PGA Tour, they're out there for a reason, because their ball striking skills from tee to green are the best in the world. And I think it's a matter of when your putter gets hot. And then it stays hot for about a 2 or 3 week period. You have to capitalize. He's had some couple close calls. Riviera was one, I want to say 2 years ago or 3 years ago, where he had the lead coming down to the last couple holes. There's tremendous amount of pressure, especially if you haven't won on the PGA Tour. Jason has made a phenomenal career on the PGA Tour. He's made, I think, $11 or $14 million in his 5 or 6 years on the PGA Tour. He's unbelievable when it comes to playing well and hitting the ball long off the tee, and I think that that's a huge advantage. He definitely has the capability to get there, and I wouldn't be surprised whether it be this year or next year, he pops through with a victory. He's going to get a win. There's no doubt about it, because he's that good. It's just when you get the putter going and you're on fire and you get over that first hump, winning breeds winning. There's no doubt about it, and I think he just needs to get in that winner's circle once, and it could be, hey, it's your first year playing the Masters, and his game is set up perfect for down there, for how you have to work the ball off the tee, the length that you have to hit it. If he putts well down there, he will be in contention and in that mix. And obviously being in that event for the first time, it's going to be a great thing to see how well he plays there. Again, it's your first time playing there. You want to get a couple reps under your belt and get familiar with some of the places like he is on normal tour stops. So I think if he does well there, if he does well during the course of this season, he's in the driver's seat to do good things. There's no doubt about it. He definitely has the game and the length off the tee to play very competitively at that level. It's just a matter of when he's going to break through, and there's no doubt in my mind that he can do that.
How crazy would it be for Jason Kokrak's first win to be a major?
Worked for John Daly. There's no doubt about it. It has been and can be done. There's no doubt about it. There's got to be a lot of things that line up. There's a lot of nuances. If you've ever been to Augusta with their greens and their green complexes that are extremely tough, and I think if he picks those up very quickly, I think he can definitely be in contention down there. But there's no doubt he can win on the PGA Tour. He certainly wouldn't be out there at the level that you have to be to play week in and week out. I mean, he had a cut streak that was a mile long for a while too. So I mean, he made a ton of cuts, and he's always there. So
Brian,
it's just a matter of getting over the hump one time, and you're good to go.
Brian, before we let you go, give everyone the phone number for the Mill Creek Golf Course, and let everyone know what you need to do in order to get on the golf course.
Absolutely. 2 ways to do it. You can give us a call here at the Pro Shop, 330-740-7112, and we make a tee time for you. Or you can go to millcreekmetroparks.org and book online under the golf link.
Brian, always a pleasure. Look forward to hearing the scouting report for the first of many PGA events starting next week.
You got it. I'm excited. Thanks for having me on today.
You got it, brother. Brian Tolnar, he is the man in charge of the Mill Creek Golf Course. And again, if you want to book a tee time, give the office a call, 330-740-7112. That is the number to call, or you can go to Mill Creek. What was that? MillCreekGolfCourse.org?
Metro Parks.
Yeah, that's right. MillCreekMetroParks.org for you to book a tee time as well. Anthony over there and Ron over here, and that was cool. It was really good to speak with Brian Tolnar. You and I kind of both looked at each other when I asked the question about Kokrak. Would it be cool for him, his first win, to be a major? Obviously, it did work for John Daly. John Daly's first win was the British Open, so that's not a bad major to get your first win in.
Sometimes the fates look down on you with some gratitude, and they let that happen.
Look, I don't think there's any question that Jason Kokrak is more than capable of winning multiple times on the PGA Tour, and I don't think there's any question that he could be a very, very dominant player, but boy, you got to have everything in line 4 rounds in a row in order for you to win that one event. But I get the feeling that if he cracks through and wins that one event, a lot more events are going to follow.
You know, I like the comparison to David Duval, because he's right. David Duval was a player always in the mix of things, but really took a while to get that first win. And when he did, he went on a hot streak and put together a pretty good golf career until he got the yips, and then you can't really come back from the yips.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that at one point in time, David Duval was the number one player in golf. I mean, he was better than Tiger Woods, and that was in the middle of Tiger's heyday, where David Duval was better than Tiger Woods. And then he got the yips, which, if you ever watch Tin Cup, Kevin Costner's character, the yips can be... I've had the yips for all of my life on a golf course, but that's neither here nor there. So there you go.
Once your head caves in on the golf course and that visor doesn't fit anymore, you're done.
Yeah, that's a tough sport. You have got to be so mentally prepared to play that sport, and I can see why guys are taking their time. They're looking down the course, down the fairway, and they're lining up to where they want to hit the ball. Which, you know, my biggest problem is if I line up straight, the ball goes to the right. So I'm trying to line up a little crooked so the ball would turn around and go straight. And when I lined up crooked, the ball goes straight as an arrow to the left. So I'm screwed.
Time to an extent. Let's not pull a Sergio Garcia and have like 150 waggles before you hit the ball.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't want to go down that road.
Remember when Sergio used to do that?
Yeah.
He used to stand at the tee, and he'd be doing this for a solid, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I think SportsCenter counted his waggles. It went up to 200.
Yeah, he was the baseball version of the human rain delay.
He cut that out finally.
Oh yeah, I mean he and Mike Hargrove. I mean he was the Mike Hargrove of golf, where Grover, the player, not the manager. Mike Hargrove, every pitch, he would put 1 foot out of the box. He'd adjust one batting glove. He'd adjust the other one. He'd put a little smack into the dirt with his back foot in the batter's box. He'd adjust his helmet, do the batting gloves again, and then slowly get back in and get ready. And then the next pitch would come. We'd start the whole damn thing over again. So it was unbelievable. They called him the human rain delay for a reason. Yeah, guy was just unbelievable.
One of the things in baseball is if you can mess with the pitcher's tempo.
Oh, absolutely.
Then it's your right to do it, and I say more power to you.
Absolutely. Now, again, they want to speed things up in baseball, where I know in the high school level, you want to always have 1 foot in the batter's box, and I agree with you. Who was it? Mark Burley. Is one of the guys that as soon as he got the ball from the catcher, he's ready to go again. He just had one of those up-tempo type of things. And No, I mean, if you're a hitter and you know that you're facing a starting pitcher that loves to speed the tempo up, obviously you want to be able to throw that pitcher off a little bit.
The one that you'll never take a pitcher off more than calling time right before he starts his windup.
Oh yeah, yeah. We did this one time. Well, not we. I was broadcasting the game. I was in AA Jackson, and the Diamond Jacks, which that's what they were called back in the day. They're now the Jackson Generals, but in my 6 years there, they were called the West 10 Diamond Jacks. So we were playing in Chattanooga. And Chattanooga at the time was the Reds AA affiliate. Homer Bailey made it to the bigs. Homer Bailey was pitching. We had a leadoff hitter, fast as all get out, but he was good, but he wasn't good enough to be a big leaguer. Chris Walker, left-handed batter. And he did the exact same thing that you were talking about. Homer Bailey was on his A game. I mean, he was cranking it. Left, right. I mean, he was just, as soon as he got the ball back, he wanted to do. Well, Chris called time as Homer Bailey was winding up. Homer didn't care for that because the next pitch hit him in the head. And, he was down for a little bit. Now, the good news is National League ballpark, National League rules. Homer Bailey comes up the next inning, and the manager at the time, Pat Listash, I can't say that he told the pitcher to do what I'm about to say, but I'm pretty sure that conversation was made, except the pitcher missed him. He threw behind him, and the umpire took the time to warn both benches. Well, the pitcher wanted a piece of him, so he drilled him in the lower back, just absolutely smoked him.
Yeah.
Had a bench clearing brawl, the whole 9 yards. It was interesting to say the least.
Yeah, if the ump grants you the time, which sometimes the umps
sometimes they won't.
Sometimes they won't. But if they're going to do it, then you take advantage of that.
Absolutely, and Homer was pissed. He was. He just, you knew he had a demeanor about him, and he was pissed. The next pitch drilled him in the head with a fastball. Which, look,
never.
I mean, if you're gonna hit
ever.
someone, you make sure that it's below the shoulders.
Right.
If you're gonna hit anybody, and again, I have my own opinions about hitting people, which I'm old school. If and again, I'm not a pitcher, never been one, but if I had been a pitcher in the day and someone Cadillac'd up the first base line, pimping a home run, the next time up, he's getting one in the middle of his back. And that's the end of that. You're not going to show me up like that.
See, if I was the manager and I knew that the pitcher was going to do that, I would tell my hitters to look at my home runs. Because, hey, next time you're up, we're going to get a free base runner.
That's true. I mean, you could do it like that. It just...
Because that tells me I can get into your head.
No, that's true, too. I mean, it was a different era. I mean, today's era is a lot different. From someone who grew up in and watched baseball in the 70s and 80s where pitchers didn't take that crap.
Yeah.
And they went up and in or nailed someone if they thought the batter was pimping a home run or Cadillacing up the first base line. They didn't care for that. Nowadays, you don't do that stuff.
Pitchers, it's funny because they don't like that, but they'll be fine and they can fist bump and they can point at you if they strike you out. But
absolutely.
If you look at your home run, you're not showing me up.
Yeah, and it's I don't like either one.
So it's funny. It's this pitchers are a crazy breed.
Yeah, I don't like either one. Now, having said that, it's you now have to accept it because it is part of the culture. I can't stand bat flipping, but it is part of the culture in this game now. So you got to deal with it. It is a new game. But I've kidded with some of the young kids. In the era 2 generations ago, you go up against a Sandy Koufax, a Don Drysdale, Bob Gibson would knock his own mother down if she glared at him or pimped a home run. He'd knock his own mother down. It just they just had that temperament where, okay, you're going to respect me, and if you don't, well, we're going to throw some chin music towards you.
And the whole thing is, if you don't want it, then don't throw the ball down the middle that gets blasted out of the yard.
Well, that's the other thing, and that's the theory of today.
Same argument. Like, people were getting so upset because Cam Newton was doing touchdown dances.
Yeah.
Don't let him score, and he won't dance. I mean, it's that simple. Well, not simple, because stopping Cam Newton from running into the end zone
it's kind of tough to do.
But you can't get mad at him for dancing when you just let him score.
Yeah, but if you're up by 30 some odd points,
And
there's
he didn't
no
even
reason
do that
to
much.
do that.
He just did this.
Yeah, he allegedly pulls the or you pull the jersey, which you're really not doing.
No,
to
but
have
he did the Superman, and
Yeah.
it's not like he went into someone's face and danced in their face. I mean, I never understood why he got so much flack for the stuff he did. Because he would always take the football and find a kid in the stands and give it to him every time he scored a touchdown.
See, I like that.
You know,
I like that. A choreographed touchdown.
some of them are funny.
Some of them are okay.
Some of them are like, you took too much time on it.
Yeah, I mean, the old school Billy White Shoes Johnson, where he's putting his legs back and forth.
Remember the Dirty Bird?
The Dirty Bird was Dion dancing in the end zone or dancing on his way into the end zone.
High stepping,
and then doing the little dance.
Yeah.
And I just okay. I mean, all right, I guess. I'm with you. I'd find a fan, especially if you're on the road and you see someone in your colors in the end zone. Oh yeah, find that person and give them the football. Absolutely.
And it's crazy. They fine Cam Newton every time you do that because you're giving rid of a football because you're not supposed to do that, and he would gladly pay that fine.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of the same thing when at the end of an inning. Now I don't know if you can do it because the netting. But back in the day, first baseman, especially if it's a ground ball and you throw to first baseman catches the ball. Instead of throwing the ball back to the mound, sometimes the first baseman would jog off the field, flip the ball into the stands on the first base or third base side. All right, I had that. I was watching.
That's why you never tick off the other team's first baseman because.
Yeah, exactly. I was watching the Cardinals AAA team in Memphis, and they were playing Iowa, which has always been the Cubs AAA affiliate. Well, Cubs kids came through Jackson, so the first baseman, Micah Hoffpower, again, wasn't good enough to play in the major leagues, got as high as AAA ball. He was a starting first baseman that night. He knew that I was sitting 2 rows behind the dugout, flipped me the ball. So I got a Pacific Coast League baseball. I don't know where the hell it is, but I got a Pacific Coast League baseball somewhere in the archive. So yeah, no, I mean that part of it was kind of cool, where you can have that ball flipped from the first baseman to a young fan or a fan. Now with the netting, I don't know if you're going to be able to do that.
Is, in the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of videos of the guys that are playing catch with a young fan over the outfield wall.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, Mike Trout did that a couple of times.
Stuff like that is what baseball can do to grow the game.
Absolutely.
More connection between the young fans and the superstars.
And more importantly, have someone filming that.
Right.
So you're able to see and show that before every game up on the Jumbotron. Have a nice little 60-second PSA from Major League Baseball showing the players playing catch with the kids beyond the outfield wall. I think stuff like that would go a long way toward having a wonderful marketing ploy for Major League Baseball, which they don't have right now in any way, shape, or form. All right, 330-886-0813. We'll take a timeout. On the other end, more of your phone calls. Coming up at the top of the hour, we will hear from Scott Rourke. He is the guy in charge of the Class B League. B League starts 1 week from Sunday with all kinds of things going on, and we'll catch up with Scott to talk a little bit about that. It's all coming up in a bit. You're listening to a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com.
21
evening,
News.
and thank you.
The details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. Perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
Storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Day in the showers, I'm keeping my eye on in parts of Columbiana County.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Hi everyone, this is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN.
It's a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hartwig. Numbers to call, 330-886-0813. That's 330-886-0813. Coming up at the top of the hour, we will hear from the man in charge of the Class B League. Scott Rourke will be calling in the show at 2 o'clock, and we will talk B League baseball with the guy in charge of Class B baseball, Scott Rourke. And again, 1 week from Sunday, 14U, 16U, and 18U baseball will be played at Scene Park. Man, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're excited about it for here at YSN. One of the biggest things is that every game, every field is going to be on YSN. So we're really excited for a summer that is absolutely jam-packed of baseball.
Yeah, it should be an awful lot of fun. Various announcers will be calling the games. I know Richie Rich is going to be doing Sunday and Monday. I'm going to be taking part Tuesdays and Thursdays. DJ is going to be doing Wednesdays and Fridays, and Iron Mike is going to be doing Saturdays. Yeah, so there you go. Speaking of baseball, we at YSN have not really talked about the social issues of what is going on, and we have opinions, but we're all about sports. But I do have to comment on something. Mark Carrig wrote an article yesterday in The Athletic, and he talked about the headline of the article is "The League That Celebrates Jackie Robinson Has Gone Silent." And yeah, I find that very disheartening that 73 years ago, on April the 15th, 1947, Major League Baseball had, for the first time in a long, long time, a black baseball player in Major League Baseball, and Jackie Robinson. He broke the color barrier. And it has always been, baseball has always been a sport that was at the forefront of societal issues. And Major League Baseball is one of the reasons why it has been America's pastime is it is Americana. And it is part of the fabric of this great country that we live in. I am disheartened beyond belief that Major League Baseball has not made an announcement one way or the other pertaining to what has been going on for the last week in terms of the protests and the different things that have gone on since the since the tragic incident in Minneapolis, Minnesota, involving a black man being choked out, for lack of a better term, by a white police officer who had his knee on the neck of the person. And I'm a little surprised that Major League Baseball, of all sports, has not said anything yet.
Well, they did release a statement about 2 hours ago.
Oh, there you go.
On their Twitter, it's on, right along the lines of every other sports. The black background and the text and basically they've all been kind of the same kind of sentiment. Yesterday, almost every team in the MLB across the board, at least from what I saw, made statements, but MLB itself didn't, which I thought was kind of weird to see all the franchises come out, make statements for themselves, and not have one from the umbrella company until a day later.
I mean, the NBA made their statement, the NHL made their statement, the NFL was hypocritical beyond belief in their statement, which is, I'm not even going to get into that because it involves Colin Kaepernick and the hypocrisy of what happened years and years and years ago, which I don't even want to get into because whatever. But I'm surprised that it took Major League Baseball this long to finally come out with a statement, because Major League Baseball was and has always been the fabric of this country. This country and baseball, there is a woven fabric of baseball within the culture of our great country. And for Major League Baseball to be very late in making their statement is just, I'm not happy with that at all.
Especially when all your teams are making statements and you're not. That's the one thing. Like, if baseball as a whole was silent, that'd be kind of one thing. Like, they're all trying to get their ducks in a pond. But when your teams are all coming out making statements and the umbrella company that kind of governs them all isn't saying anything, that's when you kind of scratch your head.
Yeah, and let me just say this, and I've been around plenty of clubhouses, plenty of locker rooms and whatnot. I wish our society was more like a sports franchise in this particular case. And I'm just going to use baseball because 12 years in minor league baseball, riding a bus for 12 years, just hanging out with the best of the best of the best for 12 years. It taught me a lot of things, the biggest of which is this. Major League Baseball clubhouse has not just white people. Major League Clubhouse has white people, black people, Latino players, and it's a melting pot. Mm-hmm. It is a melting pot of people, various colors, various ages, various backgrounds, various financial backgrounds, and everyone gets along. Everyone understands that you're in this together. In order for you to win on the field and off the field, you have to be able to coexist, and you have to be able to have a very tight-knit chemistry, tight-knit clubhouse. Now, I have been in clubhouses that were not the tightest of fit, and those clubhouses would normally implode toward the end of the season. 1999 in Abilene being one of the big examples. We had some problems toward the end of the year. That had nothing to do with race. It had more to do with other stuff that was percolating. But the point that I'm trying to make is, in sports, everyone gets along. Everyone understands, hey, you have something to do within the structure of our team for our team to be successful. And I don't give a damn if you're white, black, Latino, you have a role on this team. I wish our society was more like a professional franchise in that we coexist. Not only do we coexist, we don't look at color. We expect every single person in our society to do their job so our society can win. Mm-hmm. That's something that I wish our country would be more like, because what we're doing right now, this is, for lack of a better term, and pardon my French, it's bullshit. We need to start treating people better, much better. And we need to bring into play what professional sports does, where everyone is in the same locker room. Look, you're going to have disagreements, but at the end of the day, everyone knows what their job is, and together, everyone is doing the best that they can in order to win a championship. It's the same thing in life. I don't understand why we all can't have or subscribe to that whole thing that sports does.
And baseball has always been a bridge between cultures that are different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
The diversity. And you take it back in 2016, I think it was, that they played a game in Cuba. Very different cultures from Cuba and America. But we came together, we played a game in Cuba, and it was one of the reasons why, for the first time in a while, an American president went to Cuba for that baseball game. I mean, baseball has always been something that kind of bridges cultures together. And they should have been on the forefront of this, what's going on right now.
Oh, absolutely. There's no two ways about it. And again, I just wish that society took a couple of pages from how professional sports is run, where in the locker room, as a member of a team, you are expected to do your job, and it doesn't matter the color of your skin. That's irrelevant. That's professional sports, for the most part, is completely colorblind when it comes to, if you're a member of the team, it is your job to do this, this, and this. Don't really care one way or the other what you look like, what your political persuasion is. We don't really care about that. You just go out and you do your job. I just wish that our society wasn't so damn hung up on, well, you look different than me.
Yeah, as far
no
as
kidding.
Internally in the clubhouse, you're absolutely right. In the clubhouse of all these teams, all that you just said is correct. If you go a little bit out and you go to the front office and the fan bases, it gets a little dicey. But as far as in the clubhouse, in the locker room, whatever you want to go, everything you just said is absolutely correct.
No, there's no question. And look, I mean, I've been around the best of the best. I've been around professional athletes who happen to be white, black, and Latino. And all of them brought something special to the table. All of them were wonderful human beings, and all of them, for the most part, in my 12 years, all of them brought something special. And when you have a really great clubhouse where everyone's getting along, oh my God, it's so much fun. The 2016 Indians had that clubhouse. In 2005, the Diamond Jacks team that I broadcasted went to the Southern League Championship Series. We had that kind of a clubhouse. Oh my God, when you can have harmony and you can have guys getting along because everyone just loves playing a game together, oh, unbelievable.
And one of the big reasons is the MLB has tremendous programs throughout all its franchises to help with the culture shock of people that are coming from a different culture into the United States. They do wonderful programs to kind of bridge that gap throughout their whole teams, whether it be teaching them English, teaching them how to go about an American culture in a city and things like that. They do a tremendous job, and that just speaks to what I said before. There've always been a bridge between cultures that are different.
When I was in Dodgertown, and I only spent 1 year in Dodgertown, it was 2002. It was toward the end of the Dodgers in their stay in Vero Beach, Florida. They used to have English classes in the evenings, and you would have the Hispanic players or the players from Asia, because the Dodgers were very much involved in the Pacific Rim, Japan, Taiwan, and those countries out there. They were very, very much at the forefront of getting the Japanese and the Taiwanese baseball player to come play for their minor league organization. And between they and the Hispanic kids growing up in poverty in the Dominican Republic or Venezuela, Nicaragua, Mexico, and a few of the other Caribbean countries in Latin America, if the kids did not speak English very well or had no knowledge of the language, in Dodgertown they would have classes, and they would have these kids learning the basic skills of English, so you would be able to communicate with your teammates. And if you were being interviewed and you felt comfortable enough to answer your questions in English, or if you needed a interpreter, well, there was an interpreter there for you. But the kids were taught English during spring training. Once the day was over and you were finished playing baseball for the day, you took a couple of hours off, and that evening you would have English class. And for about an hour, these kids would be taught proper English.
And you also have to point out that at least I can speak to the Royals because I've seen what they've put out on their platforms, but there's also ways that the English-speaking players can learn a little bit more Spanish.
Absolutely.
So that can bridge their gap. They have those programs as well. So it's not just come learn our language so we can, no, it's let's learn each other's cultures and each other's languages so we can both go down this bridge.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I would tell an up-and-coming baseball broadcaster especially, because I know there's a lot of kids. One of our associates goes to Beaver Local.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell him, get as much Spanish as humanly possible, where you learn that as a second language. Because if you're going to be broadcasting baseball, first of all, you're not going to be starting in the major leagues. That doesn't happen. You're going to wind up going into minor league baseball, and if you do, your chances are going to be running into an awful lot of Hispanic kids. And if you want to be able to talk to them, you have to speak their language, plain and simple. So I learned enough Spanish to kind of, sort of get by, but not a whole lot to have a conversation. So it is what it is. But that's the only thing that I will say is I just wish our society was had a more mentality of a sports locker room, clubhouse feel to it, where you don't look at a person's, you don't judge the character of a person by their skin color. You judge the character of a person by what they produce, plain and simple. So that's the only thing I'll say about it. But I thought it was interesting that Major League Baseball had or The Athletic had an article on Major League Baseball. And again, I find it very disappointing that it took up until a couple of hours ago for Major League Baseball to finally get on board and say something, because it should have been said a long time ago. But we'll stop with that. All right, 330-886-0813. Coming up the top of the hour, we will catch up with Scott Rourke. B-League Baseball is coming back 1 week from Sunday, and we will get the lowdown on everything that is going to be going on in the B-League, 14U, 16U, and 18U. And all of the games, from what I understand, all of the games are going to be exclusively at Bob Scene Park. Oh, dear Lord, is that ballpark going to get used this summer? In a very short, condensed time, that ballpark is going to get used big time.
Yeah, and what they're doing, like we said, condensed, but they're packing a lot into that little condensed time. So they're making sure that they get everything they possibly can out of this Bob Scene Park, squeezing all the juice out of the Bob Scene lemonade.
Yeah, and again, the 25th year of baseball at Bob Scene Park. It is the silver anniversary, as it were. There's only one person, to my knowledge, that is left from the first year at Bob Scene Park. You want to take a guess who that is?
Not even close. It's probably way past my prime.
No, actually, you would probably, if I gave you the answer, you would probably go, I should have realized this. Public address announcer Red Baker.
Oh, okay.
He's been there since day one.
That makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, Red Baker has been there since day one, and he has been around since the beginning of all of that at Bob Scene Park.
Old Red,
yeah, and he is the public address announcer, and he'll be back at it 1 week from Sunday as well. So should be a good time. Should be a really, really good time. I remember, because 25 years ago I was still doing sandlot baseball around these parts, if I'm not mistaken. 25 years ago was what, 95? Yeah, I was doing sandlot baseball. And I remember broadcasting the first game from Scene Park, and Bob Feller threw out the first pitch at Scene Park, and that was the night they dedicated the ballpark, and Bob Feller threw out the first pitch. It was not the first time Bob Feller came to town. He came to town a few years beforehand at Pemberton and threw out the first pitch in a Connie Mack state tournament format. So Bob Feller was always good to the area and good to Mr. Scene in terms of making sure that he would always be available whenever the B League and whenever Bob Scene wanted him to come to be at Pemberton or at his facility. And I just wish that Mr. Scene was still around to see just how incredible his vision has turned out, because 25 years later, that ballpark is as gorgeous as it was in day number one, and Lord knows it's even more popular now.
We're not exaggerating in saying it's the premier baseball venue in Northeast Ohio. I would say that.
I would not just say Northeastern Ohio. I'd say the entire state of Ohio.
Sandlot, at least.
You might see a facility with more fields, but you will not see a facility that is better than Bob Scene Park. Plain and simple. That is a gorgeous, gorgeous facility. I remember the last couple of years that I lived in Jackson, the city of Jackson built a youth complex around Pringles Park, which is now the baseball park of Jackson, which probably isn't going to be used after 2020, remains to be seen one way or the other. Anyway, the youth ballparks, nice, very nice, but none of them were anywhere close to as gorgeous as Bob Scene Park. It just there is something very special about that area and that ballpark, the complex, not just one of the ballparks. Although my preference is ballpark one, that's always going to be my preference because that's where I did a lot of games from. But all three ballparks are absolutely gorgeous.
You're right, and the facility. I mean, forget not just the parks, but the whole facility is just top notch.
It really is.
When you strip it down to the restroom qualities, the seating areas, the concessions, the press boxes, everything that goes outside that people don't really think about is also up to the pristine level.
No doubt. All right, we're going to start with Scott Rourke. The B League starting 1 week from Sunday. We'll get Scott's opinion on the opening of the 2020 B League season, a condensed season where a lot of things are going to be happening at Bob Scene Park. We'll talk with Scott Rourke about that coming up in a bit. You're listening to a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com.
Baird Brothers remains your source for fine hardwood products. For the time being, we're open for customer pickup only on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Saturday from 9 a.m. till noon. Place your order online at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
The 4M Company, being an architect and construction manager for over 40 years, has had the opportunity to use many different electrical businesses for our projects. The depth, quality, and knowledge and attention to detail displayed by Dickey Electric makes them stand out above all the rest.
For state-of-the-art expertise and a timeless commitment to our customers, contact Joe Dickey Electric. We are everything electrical.
Friday night, it's fresh limousine. I'm feeling pretty good about myself, like I'm living the dream. Platform shoes, strutting down the street. It's gonna get hot in here, I hope you can handle the heat.
Over the years, you watched us grow, and as we've grown, so has the Myers Family Insurance team.
Thanks to all of you who have trusted our families to help you with your Medicare needs.
Myers Family Insurance looks forward to helping you now for years to come, so So call our family today and remind them how cute we are.
Myers Family Insurance continues to be the area's resource for all your Medicare and retirement needs. Call today, 330-286-3044.
It is a Wednesday edition of Running Points on YSNLive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hardwig, and we are very pleased to be joined by the head cheese, the guy in charge of the B-League, Mr. Scott Rourke, joining us on the YSN hotline. Scott, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you, Ron?
I'm doing wonderful. Okay, so we're ready to unleash B-League baseball in a very condensed version 1 week from Sunday. Am I correct in saying that every single game is going to be played at Bob Scene Park this summer?
Yes. All three divisions are going to play all their regular season and playoffs at Bob Scene Park this year.
Man, that is going to be an awful lot of baseball condensed into a very short time period. Morning to night, nothing but baseball at Bob Scene Park.
It'll be, there's 60 games per week because you got 6 games a night, 5 days a week, and then we got 15 games on Saturday and 15 games on Sunday. So, yeah, it's going to be very condensed, but we're excited about it. I think the excitement level is pretty high with a lot of people. I just hope that all the managers and the coaches, follow the guidelines that we put forth, and we run a successful and safe season, especially to get these kids some reps because they missed high school and everything else.
A lot of things that are going to be different, courtesy of COVID-19. Give everyone an idea of some of the different things that are going to be happening at Bob Scene Park this summer, Scott.
Okay, well, first of all, what you won't see is you won't see people lined up right against the fence, behind the backstop and stuff. Everybody's supposed to be 6 feet away from there. We are strongly recommending that everyone that comes through the park does wear a mask. It is not mandatory, but we are recommending it. We have to do our social distance. We have to abide by the rule. It's very difficult for the kids, but the social distance part of everything is going to be big. Now, a couple of the gameplay different situations would be most of the games that you probably see down there is the umpire is going to be calling balls and strikes behind the pitcher. And whoever is on defense must chase all the foul balls or put the game balls into play. And we're just separating the baseballs from one another. Like I said, trying year. Hopefully we're doing the right thing. I see there's tons of tournaments opening up now. People are just going hog wild to get out and play baseball, and we elected not to have any tournaments, and not to have any outside games or whatnot, and just play our league at Bob Scene Park.
Now, a lot of people saw your schedule get released, and they were so excited that baseball is getting back, but obviously a lot of moving parts behind the scenes to get this thing rolling. Kind of put into words on what everyone kind of came together and what were some of the obstacles that you guys faced to kind of put this together and give us a Class B season this summer.
Well, I think one of the biggest obstacles we had to overcome as a group was, are we doing the right thing? Is this something that we should be doing? We all felt that, actually, I don't have a vote in anything. I mean, a lot of people think that, what I say goes, that this is a dictatorship or whatever. I don't have a vote in any of this unless there's a tie. I could only bring suggestions out to the board, and the 10 franchise holders will go ahead and vote on that. The proposal that I put out in place was was to have baseball at Bob City Park starting in mid-June, going through July, playing an 18-game regular season, leaving a week at the end for any makeup games for rainouts, and then starting playoffs and championship and being done July 31st. That was voted on 10-0. Didn't have to vote on that one. Every franchise holder was in agreement. So there are a lot of things behind the scenes, just, learning about this disease, learning about, what we need to do as a park, as a league, as people that are coaching kids. What is our responsibility now to make sure that these kids come and feel safe and to play baseball?
Scott Rourke is the commissioner of the Youngstown Class B Baseball League, and he joins us on the YSN hotline. And Scott, obviously, when you talk about baseball, the disgusting habit of spitting is the fabric of the game, whether it be sunflower seeds, whether it be a batter spitting on his batting glove and getting his hands all put in together so they can get more grip on the bat, whether it be tobacco juice, which should be completely outlawed by everyone, whether we have baseball or not, in COVID-19 or outside of COVID-19. Nobody should be chewing tobacco, neither here nor there. How are you guys going to police something that is it's natural as anything to do in the game of baseball? How are you guys going to police that?
Well, that was definitely, Ron, that was definitely brought up. The sunflower seeds, the gum, everything else, was talked about. Tobacco, of course, is always talked about. And those are definitely outlawed. The spitting, like you said, that's a tough thing. A lot of kids get in this routine when they get up to bat, to spit on their glove and rub them together so they get better. We kind of tried to push the envelope with the coaches to talk more about getting some pine tar somewhere where they're able to have that on the bat instead of always spitting in their gloves. The offense for that is the first time the umpire sees that, any type of spitting, he's going to warn them, and the second time is an ejection. And I think once you get one ejection, I think people are just going to stop that because I don't think many of these kids want to come, especially the kids that drive, an hour and a half to the games. I don't think they're going to want to drive with their parents and get thrown out of a game because they were spitting and have to drive back home.
Well, Scott, here's the other thing that, as an umpire, okay, you're going to have it based for the umpire, but let's talk about ejections for a second. There's a 6-foot distance that, within the COVID-19 world. Let's say someone does get ejected and you have a little rhubarb, whether it be behind home plate, whether it be a blown call by an umpire, because, yes, we tend to, not all of us, but some of us, not except for Greg Patteray, he's perfect, but some of us will blow a call on occasion or make a great call that will be disagreed upon. The arguing aspect of it, you're going to have to be 6 feet apart.
Yeah, we definitely had some conversation about that, and this year is more about the kids, I think, than the managers and coaches, out there, having to cause a scene. Not every call is going to be made the correct way, and these managers have to realize that. This is definitely, I can tell you honestly, and the managers of the league they know because they've been told by me. But this is not a year that they want to get thrown out because if they get thrown out of a game, there could be a 10-game suspension to go with that, and we're only playing 18, so you won't be around too long.
I went to some softball tournaments over the weekend, and they had the guideline where each team had to use their own set of softballs. Is it going to be the same thing with Class B, where each team on the field is going to be using a different bucket of game balls?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. That was one of the changes. Anybody that's on defense it must supply the balls that are being in play at that time.
Scott Rourke is the commissioner of the Youngstown Class B League, and he joins us on the YSN hotline. Scott, one of the other things that I noticed you guys are going to be enforcing this year is a 2-hour curfew. Now, I have a question on this. Is it an inning can start, let's say you're an hour and 58 minutes into a game. Can you start the next half inning being that you're starting it under the 2-hour limit? Or is it a situation where once the clock strikes 2 hours down the road, that's it, no matter where you are in the game, game over?
Game over. Drop dead.
Okay.
2 hours, drop dead time limit. You know, I'm a numbers guy, so I do a lot of weird things with the during the season. I usually have, you know, like people that are there to tell me how long each game lasted, and so I did an evaluation, and our average time last year in the 18-year-old league, our average game lasted like an hour and 48 minutes. Our average game in the 16-year-olds averaged about an hour and 55 minutes, and then the 14-year-old there were a couple outliers that were pretty long games, but for the most part, they were right around 2 hours. So, I mean, if these coaches do the job, and I know you've umpired my games, but if the coaches do their job and get these kids on and off that field, that 2-hour time limit, we shouldn't even be worrying about that. But it is drop dead. Whatever happens, wherever you are at that game in 2 hours from the first pitch, that game is over. If it's a tie, it's a tie.
Rob Manfred might want to hire you. I'm just saying. He might want to hire you, being that you're making dang sure that it's 2 hours, get on, get out, and there you go.
Well, I mean, and you know, I've been around baseball a long time. I mean, 2 hours, 2-hour games is mostly probably because people are not running on and off the field. There's a blowout, or you know, an umpire is just, or not an umpire, a coach is going out to the mound too many times. You know, so we need to limit those. You know, if you're going to talk to your kids, talk in between innings and make them hustle on and off the field. I mean, there shouldn't be any walking between the white lines anyway.
I was going to ask that on the protocol of mound visits between whether it be the coach and the players or whether it be a catcher that wants to go out and talk to his pitcher. Obviously, now they have to stay within 6 feet away from each other when they do that. So is that going to change anything? Are coaches still allowed to go talk to their pitcher?
Oh, yeah, they're still allowed mound visits, but, you know, of course, they do have to social distance themselves from the kid. So you should see those mound visits go down. Like I said, I mean, and I know our league is competitive, and it's very competitive. And when you get out there, those competitive juices are going to start to flow. I know everybody knows that. But we got to look back and just say, hey, you know, we're doing this for the kids this year because, you know, they had some things happen in with their high schools that they weren't able to play some baseball. You know, the governor of Ohio has opened it up so we can get some baseball games being played. So let's you know, get our egos off to the side a little bit and you know, play the game for the kids. Let the kids play the game this year.
Hey, Scott, before we let you go, one final thing. So the season itself starts 1 week from Sunday. Give everyone a rundown on how many games you're going to be playing as well as the playoff format.
Okay. Starting next Sunday, all three divisions are going to play a single round for each, so that's the 15 games for Sunday. And then all the way through, I believe, July 15th right now, we're scheduled games. And what I mean by that is how we did it was if we scheduled on a Monday that the 18-year-old league would play, they play all 6 games. So the 16s and 14s would be off. And then maybe Tuesday, the 16U would play, and then Wednesday, the 14U would play. And then we moved it for some double headers on Saturday. Maybe the 14U has a double header, and then maybe 16U plays at night. and then maybe 14U is off Sunday. So it's very staggered schedule. And one of the other things I wanted to mention before we got off was we have different starting times now. So if you look at our schedule on Field 3, we start at 5:30. Field 2 is 5:45, and then Field 1 would be 6 o'clock. And then, of course, we're going to give 2.5 hours in between the games. So then it's going to be 8 o'clock, 8:15, 8:30. And then on weekends, we're going to go, the first game will be played at 9 o'clock on Scene 3, 9:15 on 2, and 9:30 on Field 1. So we're trying to do that, more or less, so we don't have congregation, a lot of people standing around. And, once the coaches walk out of that, walk through those gates out of the field, they become a spectator. So they must abide by the spectator rules. And, to be honest with you, Ron, I mean, we've done a lot of things. We've learned about a couple disinfectants that are very important to have. And between games, we want every team to spray their dugout with this disinfectant that we have. And we're going to have hand sanitizer all over the place. And if somebody uses a bat, we'd like you to disinfect it, spray the handle where they touch it. So we're trying to do as many safety precautions as we can for these kids to be able to play some baseball. I mean, it's going to be different as a coach and a manager because you're not just going to go there and worry about, hey, I got to get my lineup in and I got to have, I got to think about it, what I'm doing and everything. No, I got to have a guy that I got to worry about getting baseballs in when we're on defense. I got to worry about getting the bat disinfected. I got to worry about cleaning the dugout when I'm done. I mean, there's more and more things that are piling on the coaches. But like I said, and I'll say this till July 31st. This year is for the kids. That's number one.
Scott, top 4 teams in each league go to the playoffs.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get there. But
no,
top
that's all right.
6, actually.
Top 6.
Top 6, we're going to have there's only one division. So we usually did divisions in the past. This year we're going one division. Top 2 teams will get a bye in the first round. 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. The best of 3. And then, 1 will play the worst seed and 2 will play the next seed. Whoever wins the first round and best of 3. And then we'll go into the 2 winners will go into the best of 5 championship. And that's in all divisions. All 3 divisions. So, we're hoping that, throughout the whole process that the regular season goes pretty smooth, that maybe the umpires do go behind the plate for the playoffs. That was talked about. And, hopefully, you never know what's going to go on with the governor. He's going to make changes, I'm sure, on a daily basis. And, you might see, maybe some relaxed social distancing. You might see some, other things that might relax some things. But the guidelines that were brought out from the governor, we felt that they were at a place where we would be able to play baseball.
Well, between doing umpiring for you guys and calling games on Tuesdays and Thursdays up in the press box, Bob Scene Park is going to be one of my favorite venues this summer, with no question about that. And I'm looking forward to a great year.
Well, we are too, and we're glad to be partners with the YSN because that gives an opportunity for some maybe some grandparents of players that maybe don't want to come out. Maybe they have some underlying issues and they don't want to contract this deadly virus, and maybe they won't come to the game, but maybe they're able to watch it on the computer and see their grandson playing and actually, hopefully, out there having fun because that's what it's all about. I mean, these kids have been trapped for a couple months, and I'm sure, they're like caged animals ready to get out.
Looking forward to a great season of baseball, albeit a condensed season, but a great season nonetheless. Scott, appreciate everything that you're doing for Class B, and man, that's a great partnership that we have, and I am really, really looking forward to broadcasting a lot of games this year.
Yeah, and I could tell you, Ron, we wouldn't have this opportunity if it wasn't for Bob Seen Jr. And I got to mention him because Bob Seen Park is, the home of Class B, but Bob Seen could have very easily just said, we're going to shut down the park this year, but he was perfect in everything that he did and everything he talked about, and he was part of the franchise call, and he wants to be involved, and he wants to make sure everything's good down there, and like I said, I mean, it wouldn't happen without him at all.
No question about that. Scott, always a pleasure, sir.
Okay, take care. Thank you.
You got it. The commissioner of the Class B League in Youngstown, Scott O'Rourke, and I absolutely second what Scott said about Bob Seen Jr. They could have very easily sat back and said, you know what, we're not going to have a season this year. Way too many hoops to jump through. Bob Seen Jr. has done yeoman's work to make sure that we can have a 2020 Class B season.
Yeah, it would have been easy to do the latter, but to do the former. But when you're talking about doing things for the kids, I mean, you don't take the easy way. You take the hard way. You jump through the hoops you have to go through, and the Scene did that, and now because of it, we're going to get Class B baseball.
Yeah, and it should be a great year. And again, I just. Man, it's going to be tough to sit back and tell a kid who, when you get up to the plate and you're spitting in your batting glove, I mean, it's going to be tough for an umpire to sit back and go, can't do that, brother. I mean, you got your first warning. Just
like it's going to be hard to, if someone drives in a run or whatever, guy crosses the plate, he high-fives the guy on deck. You can't do that anymore. You're not supposed to be high-fiving each other. So, the emotions of the game are going to be hard to kind of change that.
And I got to be honest, when I'm doing the bases, I love doing sunflower seeds.
Right.
And the fact you're not going to have sunflower seeds, that's going to be tough. You can't put bubble gum in your mouth. That's going to be tough as well. So, and if I spit one time, do I throw myself out of a game if I do it twice?
I'm out of here.
I'm out of here. Maybe if I've had a bad game, spit twice and have the home plate umpire or the other umpire throw me out of a game. There you go. The other aspect of this, it's 2 hours, and Scott said flat out, it's a 2 hour. It's a dead drop 2 hour. Let me paint a scenario. Now, I don't think this scenario will ever happen, mainly because in order to pitch a perfect game or a no-hitter, you're pretty much going to be well within 2 hours. But let's assume for a second that a pitcher has gone 6 2/3 innings of no-hit ball, or better yet, 20 up, 20 down, and he's 1 out away from a perfect game or a no-hitter, and the 2 hour mark. What do you do? I mean, you got to throw it out.
You threw a no-hitter. It just wasn't a quote-unquote 27 out no-hitter.
Yeah, it's I mean, do you give him a no-hitter?
Yeah, you do. Because it was a completed game, and he didn't give up a hit. So
it wasn't a completed game.
Yeah,
it was a 2 hour.
By the letter of the rule, by the letter of the law, it was a completed game. It's going to go down as a win for the team, and therefore you give him a no-hitter. It's my opinion.
Completed in that they finished the game in 2 hours.
It's a complete game.
That's a really tight line there.
If you're going to give the pitcher the win and you're going to give the team the win, then you're going to give him the no-hitter.
That's a tough line. Well, I agree with what you're saying in principle. I agree with what you're saying in principle. It's kind of the same thing with Galarraga 10 years ago yesterday, throwing a perfect game that wasn't a perfect game because Tim Joyce blew a call at first base. And they didn't have replay 10 years ago. Otherwise, he would have been given the perfect game. And maybe Galarraga's still in Major League Baseball. Who knows?
I really hope we don't see stall tactics close to 2 hours if a team's barely.
That's the other thing. That's the other thing. Let's say, let me throw out a scenario. Let's say a team is down 7 runs. They score 6 times in their half of the inning. And they get the opposing team up and down in order. Mm-hmm. And we go to the bottom half of the 6th inning. We're throwing inning in there. And they're 3 minutes away from the 2-hour mark. And everyone starts schlupping toward, slowing down, playing the baseball version of Four Corners offense, where they're just going to slowly go out there and, we'll warm up ever so slowly. And, okay, now he steps off the rubber as the leadoff guy is in, rubbing the baseball up and whatnot. Oh, yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Catcher calls time. I need a conference with my pitcher.
I need a conference with my pitcher. And, and the other thing that might piss some people off is what happens if a catcher looks at an umpire, the home plate umpire, assuming that he's behind the plate, which I won't be, but assuming he's behind the plate, the catcher and the home plate umpire have a nice conversation between the two. I'm sure the catcher is going to probably ask, especially if the home plate umpire is in charge of keeping the time. Because I have a stopwatch on my iPhone. I have a stopwatch. And if I'm the home plate umpire, I will make sure when the first pitch is gone, stopwatch starts. And when it gets to the 2-hour mark, ball game over, regardless. Will the catcher ask the home plate umpire, hey, how much time do we have?
In the softball tournament I was at, there was a similar situation. It was a 75-minute. It wasn't dead drop. They let you finish the inning if the timer went off. But they put the clock and the backstop, so everyone could kind of go and the catcher could go and look and see, oh, it's at this, so they would know how much time they have.
But then if they know that, then they can really slow the pace down.
Right.
So that's where. And again, if someone asks me, I'm going to say, you just play your game. Right. I'll let you know the 2 hours. Because I don't want anyone, you brought up a really good point. I don't want anyone milking the clock so they can get a victory that way. There's a reason why baseball is a great game. One of the best reasons why the game is played and why the game is so great is because under normal circumstances, there is no time on the clock. You don't have the game's not dictated by a clock. Now, unfortunately, because of what we're going through, we're going to have that.
Now, I wonder if Class B will also institute a pitch clock to kind of deter that. Say you have to throw your pitch like 30 seconds after you get the ball, period.
There you go. That would be something that would be...
Because softball absolutely has a pitch clock. It's 10 seconds.
Yeah.
You got 10 seconds to get the ball, and then you have to throw your pitch.
Yeah, so that's again, those are some things that I think will be very interesting to see as we go through this 2020 season. And again, as Scott said, and I loved when he said this is for the kids. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, it is.
Another thing he said, and he pointed out, and it's true. This is such a fluid situation. Something might change in 2 weeks where that social distancing is lax a little bit, and the guidelines are going to continue to change probably over the summer.
Absolutely. We're going to take a timeout. On the other side, we'll take some phone calls. 330-886-0813. It's a Wednesday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com.
They say American craftsmanship is making a comeback. Of course, at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, it never went away.
People are floored by Baird Brothers' authentic hardwood floors. They stare at our stairs and adore our doors. Baird Brothers reflects 3 generations of family craftsmanship. Visit our huge in-stock selection in person or at BairdBrothers.com.
Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is here, so it's all hands on deck to make sure your plans still meet your needs for 2020.
Call us today.
It is a Wednesday edition of Running Points on YSNLive.com. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hardwick. Numbers to call, 330-886-0813. That's 330-886-0813. Made mention of this in the last segment. Armando Galarraga, 10 years ago, yesterday, threw the perfect game that wasn't a perfect game in Detroit against the Indians. Leave it to Jason Donald. A scorching line drive base hit to... No, that wasn't the case. It was unfortunately a bad call by Tim Joyce. Look, the umpires aren't perfect. They never have been. They never will be. 98% of the time, 97% of the time, they get the call right. And this was unfortunately one of those instances where the call was not right. And I feel bad for Galarraga because he should have been given a perfect game. But he won't be given a perfect game. And I know he wanted Major League Baseball to overturn it just recently. And there's no way they're going to overturn it. I mean, it is what it is. There's a learning point to that.
That's probably one of the spearheaded reasons why they eventually went to get replay. So that never happens again. And then one of the other things is it stinks. It stinks for Galarraga, and it wasn't even a close oh man, he missed him by a step. It was pretty,
this was a step and a half, if not 2 steps.
Pretty clear and obvious.
Yeah, it was. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, it was a blown call by Tim Joyce, and at the end of the day, Galarraga should be given a perfect game.
No, I forget. Did Jim Joyce have did he ask for appeal from the other umpires to see if anyone saw it?
No, it was his call.
Okay,
it was his call straight out, and he just flat out missed the call. And when he went into the locker room and saw the instant replay, he was crushed.
I would be too. I mean,
absolutely. That is an umpire's worst nightmare, to have a call that is blatantly obvious, and you just didn't see it that way. And it's horrible to say you blew a call, but
you did.
You did blow a call. I don't say that. I don't want to ever say that in a mean, spiteful way. But there's no other way to put it. I mean, Tim Joyce blew that call.
And the umpires in baseball are in a little bit of a different situation at the end of games like that than football or basketball, because you'll hear a lot of football referees or basketball referees that say, I just don't want to decide the game at this point. I'm going to try to let them play as much as possible. Baseball, you got to make a call. You can't just not make that call. So it's not like you're just going to say safe just for the sake of it being a perfect game. You have to make the call that you thought you saw. And there's nowhere to escape from that. And he made the call that he thought he saw.
Yeah, and look, I mean, Jim Joyce is a fantastic umpire. He is one of the best of the game, and he... God bless him. He manned up and said, I screwed up.
That's the respect I have. He came out and said, yeah, I messed up. It's my bad. Because a lot of people could have just been like, nah, I made the right call.
Yeah, and look, I mean, it was a bad decision, and Armando Galarraga should have been given a perfect game, but it was a bad call by Jim Joyce, who manned up and said, look, I screwed up. One of the things I love about baseball that I absolutely detest about every other sport is if a person is out the first out of the game, he's out the last out of the game. If it's a close call and you were still out, you're going to be called out, which leads me to, in basketball specifically, but there's a lot of sports where referees will swallow their whistle saying, well, I don't want to make that call. Yeah. Get out of here with that. A foul is a foul 1 second into the game or 1 second left in the game. If there is a foul to be called, you have to make that call. That if it's a foul, you got to call it a foul. If there is a penalty, you got to call the penalty. It's the bullcrap with this. Well, I don't want the game to be about me. No, that's BS. That isn't about you. It's about making the call that is on the field or on the court.
It's the same thing like something that is an intentional foul in basketball won't be called an intentional foul late in the game because you know that team is trying to foul the team.
Well, I
so
don't know.
If someone grabs a jersey in the last seconds of the game,
yeah,
they're not going to put the fist up and say intentional foul.
Well, it was called on my team a couple of times this year. I'm just saying, but I told my kids, I was like, you can't, blatantly make it obvious that you're trying to foul someone. You have to at least make the attempt of, okay, we're going to foul you or something else. You can't throw a person down or grab their jersey or, shove them. You can't do that. Otherwise, one of these numbers is going to be thrown your way. And no, we had it a couple of times. It is what it is. But no, that is a pet peeve of mine. And I'm so glad that baseball doesn't do that. Because now they tend to do it with balls and strikes, which is a bigger pet peeve of mine. But when it's a blatantly out safe call, no, if you guy's out, boom, you're out.
And now if they don't, they can go to replay and be like, yeah, and they have no control over the call at that point because it's all up to New York.
Yeah.
So New York can say that guy's out, and he's out.
But let's be honest.
Sometimes New York gets it wrong too.
Exactly, and that's where you just sit back and go, why do we have replay?
Right,
if you know that you screwed the call up and you're not getting it overturned by replay, why the hell do we have replay?
Right.
That's crazy. So. Now, 10 years ago yesterday, the Indians were playing the Detroit Tigers, June 2nd, 2010, and Galarraga was 1 out away from a perfect game. Jason Donald hit a routine ground ball to the second baseman, and should have been thrown out. No, actually, a ground ball to Miggy Cabrera, who threw to the pitcher covering, and it should have been the last out. And if you had replay, it would have been the last out. But again, Jim Joyce, give him all the credit in the world. He realized he screwed up, and he recognized that he screwed up after the game when he saw the replay, and he's like, "Oh God." Yeah. And he's even said through the years, because Jim Joyce is still umping. He has said every year about this time, he just is sickened by that call. So. It's kind of the same thing with Game 6 of the World Series in 1985, where Kansas City and St. Louis.
You know what?
And the call should have was blown.
All the Cardinals fans out there, you had a Game 7 and you got smoked.
Exactly.
So
Joaquin Andujar was not on his A game, and let's just blatantly say that obvious point. And he made his presence felt after he was taken out of the ball game. He just went ballistic and got thrown out of the game. Yeah, that was But again, it's called. If you had instant replay, St. Louis is probably a World Series champions in 1985. But it goes, it's one of those things. I'll even go with the 79 AFC title game in Pittsburgh. Houston and Pittsburgh. The Oilers had the ball. Mike Renfro got both feet in on a ball that was thrown by Pastorini in the back of the end zone. There is no question he had both feet in. Incomplete pass. Now, would that have given Houston the lead? No. I believe it would have tied the ball game, though. Look, at the end of the day, they still weren't going to beat Pittsburgh. Not in Pittsburgh. The way they shut Earl Campbell down, it wasn't going to happen. But it was a blown call, though. There's no two ways about it. But it is what it is.
And then you obviously go to 2 years back with the pass interference in the NFC title game, and That's probably one of the reasons we had instant replay for pass interference, because they don't want one of those things to happen again.
Which we're not going to have this year.
No, because they really screwed the pooch the last year on this replay.
Yeah,
for pass
absolutely.
interference.
Yeah, absolutely they did. And look, that was a blatantly obvious
You should
blown
be able
call.
to. You should be able to overturn ones that are obvious like that, because
Yes.
that one should be overturned every day of the week.
But I have no sympathy for the New Orleans Saints
No,
either, because
it wasn't game winning. They still had to stop the Rams.
They had to
and
stop the
didn't.
Rams. They couldn't. They had the ball first in overtime. They couldn't
didn't
score.
score.
I got no sympathy for the Saints.
It's
None.
just, I mean, I hate to. It's just like the Browns. That drive that everyone talks about did not win the Broncos the game. Tied the game up, right? The
98.5-yard
yeah.
drive. No,
Did
that just tied the game.
Yeah.
And the Browns had possession first in overtime.
So you had your chance, and you still blew it.
Yeah. No, you
Just
had your
like the-
chance to win the game in overtime, and they went 3 and out.
Just like the Cardinals, you had Game 7, and you got smoked.
Yep. Red Sox had Game 7 in the Buckner game.
Yep.
And you got beat. So, I mean, it is what it is. Now, fortunately, the Red Sox wound up winning their World Series title in 2004.
That was one of the most exciting postseasons I've ever seen.
Which one?
The Red Sox winning in 2004.
Yeah, it was
Big
pretty
Papi
cool.
Had multiple walk-off home runs.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. The playoffs against the Yankees, where they were down 3-0 and wound up winning 4 straight against New York. By the way, no other team has done that in the history of baseball. Suck it, New York. And that's the only time I can say that to the Yankees, because they're the best team in baseball. Come on. But they're the only team that has given up a 3-0 deficit in the history of baseball. So,
And once that happened, you kind of knew, like, you felt like, okay, the Red Sox are probably going to
oh, no doubt. And they swept the Cardinals, and Manny had a World Series of epic proportions and winds up winning the MVP, and good for them. Good for them. So there you go. And if Major League Baseball ever gets it together and has a season, even if it's 50 games, 60 games, 80 games, lots of want to say this: if the Indians win the World Series this year, assuming there's baseball, the Indians win the World Series. Right. You can put an asterisk next to it all you want to. All I'll say is 2020 Cleveland Indians World Series champions, and I'll put a smile on my
like
face.
I said, if there's an asterisk there, it's just going to be to denote that there's extra information in that season. Not going to be a negative kind of asterisk where you were like the Barry Bonds thing, because every team's on the same footing.
Yeah.
No one has an advantage by this. Everyone has to deal with it, and if the Indians deal with it better than everybody else and go win a championship, then they get that championship, and I don't take anything away from them for that.
We'll see if we get baseball, and again, lots of things going on behind the scenes with Tony Clark and Rob Manfred, and they're trying to hammer something out. Tony Clark accusing Manfred and the owners of negotiating via the media. We had John Parado on last week, and John Parado is a great MLB writer, and he's got his finger on the pulse of Major League Baseball as much as anyone else. When he flat out says, "Hey, Major League Baseball should have a media blackout and just talk amongst yourselves, and when you finally get an agreement, let everyone know you have an agreement." I mean, that's pretty interesting coming from a guy whose sole job, his career, is telling everyone what's going on in Major League Baseball. For a guy like John Parado to say, blackout, just both sides, talk amongst yourselves, don't get the media involved. I mean, that is saying something really big, and I agree with him. I wholeheartedly agree with him on that count.
We've disagreed with this before, but I think it would have been a good idea when this whole thing started, before the owners put out their first proposal. But now everyone knows what's going on, and I think if you black out now, it's the Jaws syndrome, where their imagination runs wild, and people think a lot of things are worse are going on when they can't see it. So, because you already opened Pandora's box, everyone knows it's a financial dispute. So, blacking out now is kind of, in my opinion, just kind of anti-productive.
Not necessarily, because I don't want to hear what the owners have to say. I don't want to hear them negotiating through the media what's going on. I mean, you already have players that don't trust you because they've lied. You have lied to them through the years with Collusion Part 1 and Collusion Part 2, even though Collusion Part 2 was never brought out, even though it existed a few years ago, not to the superstars, but to the second and third level players. Look, the players don't trust you to begin with. So why are you negotiating through the media and taking pot shots at the players when this is every bit as much your fault as it is the Players Association? That's where I wish that they would sit back and someone would say, look, both sides, shut up. Don't let the media know anything. Let's just talk amongst ourselves and figure this out amongst ourselves. But I doubt very seriously if we get that. So
yeah, the social media question for today as we get ready to get out of here in about 15. But what is the best looking helmet in the area for high school football? What are some of your favorites?
Oh wow,
there's some really good ones in the area.
Well, South Range with the flag.
That's the
and the SR.
Yeah, but the South Range helmet, it's old school. It's pure burgundy with the gold face mask. I kind of like the tradition of it.
All right, so you're not talking helmet logo. You're just talking the helmet.
The actual helmet. Yeah.
Oh boy. I'll be honest with you. I've never noticed people's helmets.
Really?
As far as the color scheme goes, I noticed the helmet for the logo, nothing else. I just I'm not looking at the color scheme of a helmet. I just look at the logo of the helmet. By the way, the logos, some of my favorites. The South Range logo is cool. I love the Boardman logo. Just the Spartan. Yeah, the Spartan head is fantastic. The Niles logo with a dragon. That's a pretty cool logo. Crestview, the CR locked, although the Colorado Rockies might have something to say about that logo. Gerard with the Georgia G may have something to say with that. Yeah.
But Georgia can't even say anything about it because they took it from the Packers.
That's true. They put it in their colors.
Their fight song's not original, and neither is their logo. So.
Oh boy, here we go with the anti-Georgia stuff. All right, Ursuline with their logos, Notre Dame. So
their helmet's a little different because they put the shamrock on their helmet.
Yeah, Notre Dame doesn't put anything but gold on their helmets.
Did you catch the Ursuline's all-white uniforms that they wore last year?
No.
Oh, they were slick. The whiteouts with the white helmet. And
nice.
The outlined shamrock.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, it was slick.
The Latonia bear looks great, but that's a Chicago bear. So there's a little thing there. I mean, look, it's okay to not steal but borrow someone's look. And
speaking of borrowing, I've always kind of been partial to the Kansas State, Edison Wildcat logo.
Yeah,
it's simple, but it's also not simple. And I kind of like how the whiskers are kind of outlined into the logo. I've just always liked it, so I like theirs too.
I've always been a big fan of the Salem cartoon Quaker.
Yes,
been a big fan of the cartoon caricature of the Quaker. That is pretty cool, and I will be breaking out now anytime now because I have to compliment someone of a school that I'm not a fan of for the only reason being I'm a Latonia grad and we genuinely hate everything about Columbiana and Lisbon.
They got a cool logo.
Columbiana's got a great logo,
and they have they do a great job on their field.
Hang on a second.
That big C with the airplane in midfield at Firestone.
Yeah, that's a cool logo. That is a very cool logo, and I like how Western Reserve and Lisbon and McDonald, for that matter, they're all the Blue Devils, and yet they're all different.
Yes,
they're all very much different. I can appreciate that.
We have the Lisbon helmet. We have both Lisbon helmet. We have an old Lisbon helmet and a new Lisbon helmet back in the office, and I really like the blue with the pitchfork on the side.
Yeah.
It's like I know it's Arizona State with different color scheme, but that's still really cool.
Yeah, they get the Lisbon. They're doing their Blue Devil. Western Reserve has theirs. McDonald doesn't have a Blue Devil per se. They got the
they just
solid
got the
M,
block M.
like is Michigan.
But their helmets are cool because I've always liked dark blue and yellow going together.
Yes,
and I know people at Michigan. I get it. But the McDonald helmet is navy blue with the yellow face mask and the block M, and then they have stickers for good plays. I've always liked their helmet.
See, I've never been detail oriented with a helmet.
Right.
All right, interesting.
And then we have a JFK helmet out in the office too. I like the blue and red too, with the big K on the side.
Yeah, see the K on the side is that's pretty cool.
You can't miss it.
They don't have
because
the
it's
eagle
huge.
incorporated in the K though.
No, it's just a block K.
Yeah. There's a lot of simplicity.
Hubbard could have easily went and just stole Philadelphia, but they don't. They put the whole eagle face on their helmet, which I kind of respect.
Yeah.
It's not the Philadelphia Eagle wings. It's the whole, and it's even, you look at their Eagle logo, it's not exactly Philadelphia's Eagle. There's some changes to it. It's close, but it's not a copy. So I respect Hubbard for that too.
No question. That's there's some good stuff. West Branch has the little arrow.
Yeah.
The sharp end of the arrow, WB, next to it. That's pretty cool.
I like that because arrowheads.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like Brookfield. The long arrow, almost like the Florida State Seminole helmet with the arrow with the B at the end.
Yeah, there you go. Southern with a smaller version of the Chicago Blackhawks type of logo, but a little smaller version of it. But that's pretty cool. Minerva has their Detroit Lions logo, only it's in red.
Springfield going and stealing Missouri, just changing the colors.
Yeah, there you go.
It was funny because we went to Cuyahoga Falls for the basketball regionals, and they have Missouri's Tiger, but they're yellow and gold. They had to change it because Missouri, called them on it. So they have it's the Missouri logo, but they also have CF in there in the stripes just to change it up a little bit because Missouri somehow keeps an eye on what Northeast Ohio high schools are using for a logo.
Yeah, I always look at the pro franchises or the college franchises and look and go, really?
Right?
You really care what a high school team is doing with their logo? I mean, it's not like anyone is making millions of dollars on the high school logo.
And I wonder if Jefferson is ever going to get a call from Atlanta, because they have the.
Oh, I am. Yeah.
It's copy and paste for the Atlanta Falcons logo.
I've noticed that. Thank God there is nobody that's the school that starts with the letter Y. Because I would hope no one would steal
would do that. No one would do that.
The YSU block Y.
To do that so close to Youngstown, that'd be bold.
Yeah, that would be a bold move. That definitely would be a bold move. You wonder if there is a Ypsilanti High School in Michigan that has the bold Y or the Y. I don't know. I mean, what's another? Yuma, Arizona. If there's a Yuma High School in Arizona, you think they might have a block Y? And YSU is calling, now all of a sudden I can see it. YSU is now, listen to this, and they're calling all of the high schools, all of the cities that start with a Y. Hey, you're not doing that block Y, are you? 330-886-0813.
I doubt any high schools are called the Penguins, so they could also go and make sure no one else is using that Penguin.
That's true. Well, listen.
That's such a unique nickname. I don't know if anyone's touching that.
Pete the Penguin, you can't touch that. That's perfection right there.
It's MC Hammer quality.
No question. No question. Pete and Penny Penguin. That's where it's at. All right, we're going to take a timeout to wrap this bad boy up. It's a Wednesday edition of Running Points on YSNLive.com.
Hey, my Ohio friends, it's Mike Ditka, and I know great talent and heart when I see it. I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are average real estate agents, then there are true champions. Kelly Warren is one of those champions, and you have her right there in your own backyard. Kelly outmarkets and outsells every agent in the Mahoning Valley. If Kelly can't sell your home at a price and deadline you agree to, Kelly will buy it. Get your home sold. Call Kelly Warren today at 717-2689 or go online to kellysoda.com and start packing.
You can feel it, Baird Brothers' traditional craftsmanship. You can see it, Baird Brothers' timeless style. And you can afford it and find everything at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is real hardwood, yet beautifully affordable. Floors, moldings, interior doors, bar rails, and stair parts, all within your means and without a care. Start at BairdBrothers.com. You have made it your home.
Teams work hard and give it all they've got. Well, so does ours, because 21 Sports and YSN give you extra effort when covering local sports. 21 Sports and YSN, winning coverage of our Valley's teams.
It is a Wednesday edition of Running Points on YSNLive.com as we close up shop on this Wednesday edition. Coming up on Friday, it is a phone-in Friday, and, hopefully, let's see, Friday, we will have maybe, just maybe, Rob Manfred and Tony Clark and everyone in Major League Baseball coming together and figuring out finally how many games they're going to agree to.
I thought you were about to say that you were going to get Rob Manfred to call in.
Oh, hell no. The way I've been dogging him, I doubt very seriously if Rob Manfred would want to call in.
You'd take that call, though. You'd have a lot of things to say.
Pretty safe to say that Rob Manfred's never going to be on this show.
Really, if you had that opportunity, would you take it to call?
Oh my God, yes.
And then put him in the doghouse a little bit.
I would have an interview where I would not be very.
Yeah,
I would not be easy. I would not throw cream puff questions because what he is doing, and not just him, the owners, he's the mouthpiece of the owners.
Yeah.
So it's essentially what the owners are doing to this game, potentially doing to this game. Now, there would be no softball questions. I would be throwing some heat toward him, and I would hope that he would answer the questions. But, again, Rob Manfred is he's the mouthpiece for the owner. And what I'm saying about Rob Manfred is what I'm essentially saying about ownership of Major League Baseball. They are screwing the pooch big time when it comes to alienating the fans of this game.
It's just easier to point at one person than to point at all 30 people.
Well, and look, the Players Association, they have their own cross to bear on this as well. But when it's all said and done, the owners are going to be saying, we're going to play ball or not. It's going to be their decision. And they'll have the mouthpiece of the owner, Rob Manfred, fall on the sword. But make no mistake about it, if we don't play baseball this year, you can moan and groan about Rob Manfred, but no, Rob Manfred is the mouthpiece of 30 owners in Major League Baseball. If this doesn't happen, it's going to be because the owners didn't want it to happen.
Imagine that meeting. Rob, we're going to need you to do what any honorable warrior would do right now. Well, what's that? Fall on your sword.
Yeah, okay. We want you to do our dirty work and fall on the sword. And look, I mean, he's and again, it's not just his philosophies; it's the owner's philosophies because he's the mouthpiece of the owners. But man, some of the stuff that he's come up with to speed the game up. Oh, stop! No, you don't ruin the game. The game itself. One of the reasons why it's great is because there isn't a time clock. That's the great part of baseball. And hopefully, knock on wood, all of the games in the B League are going to have a final score without imposing this 2-hour to the letter of the law.
Especially really important games, like if the 1 versus 2 are playing each other.
Oh my God! In a championship format, can you imagine that?
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure they'll do away with a 2-hour dead drop during tournaments.
God, I hope so.
Because you can't end in a tie.
I would hope so. I would really hope so for that perspective. And again, I mean, if you got a tie ball game and 2 hours are up, man, you got a tie ball game, and so we're going to have ties in the win-loss column.
It's going to look like a soccer standing.
Yeah, that's. I mean, what are you going to do? Give 3 points for the win and 1 point for a tie? I mean, are we going to go in that direction? I mean, that's kind of tough to do.
Oh, geez, I just got a terrible nightmare of a future where there's a clock in baseball, like Major Leagues.
Oh, yeah.
Where there's a dead drop time.
Absolutely, and then they follow by the soccer rules where, all right, well, you get 3 points for the win. Oh, it's a tie game. All right, everyone gets 1 point. Oh, my God. Just kill me now. Just kill me now if that's the case. All right, that'll do it for the show. Way to end the show on a happy note. Good Lord. We'll be back on Friday, 330-886-0813. It'll be a phone-in Friday. For Anthony, this is Ron. You've been listening to Running Point on ysnlive.com. Oh, God. Thanks a lot, Anthony. Now I'm going to be pissed the rest of the day. Enjoy the rest of your